Chapter 3774. Chu Li said, "You're from the Holy Church of Light, right?" As soon as he said that, he threw out a knife. An elder used the divine light fist to slow down the flying knife and blocked it with his sword. Then, he and another elder rushed forward with their swords. Chu Li retreated and threw out the flying knife. Bang! A golden light suddenly exploded in the sky. A golden long sword condensed in the sky like a colorful cloud flashing in the night sky. It could be seen from a dozen miles away, even in Fairy's capital. The 8 great protectors saw that their opponent was stronger than them and did not try to be brave. They immediately used the signal to ask for help. Their reputation was not important, but King Ping's safety was more important. Secret skill, an elder said. Chu Li saw that the situation was not good and dropped his heavenly demonic orb. Suddenly, his body surged with endless power. Inner energy from all directions surged into his dantian and turned into cloud-slashing power inner energy. His figure disappeared in a flash and reappeared behind an old man. The elder's body expanded and shrank before returning to normal. However, his body exuded a mountainous and ocean-like aura. Facing Chu Li's palm from behind, he punched backward with the divine light fist and collided with Chu Li's right palm. Pop! It was like a stone falling into a deep well, making a strange sound. Their fists and palms collided as if they were glued together, competing with each other's inner energy. Cloud-slashing power was extremely pure and had the ability to devour. It had always been invincible, but under the elder's tyrannical and pure inner energy, it was forced to retreat. The elder's inner energy was majestic and pure like water. It was 2 levels higher than Chu Li's inner energy, making it hard for Chu Li to breathe. Chu Li's face darkened. As expected, he was a hidden master. He turned to look at King Ping, who was fighting with another elder. The divine light fist forced King Ping to retreat more than 100 feet away. Chu Li shouted, "Your Royal Highness, be careful behind you. There are 2 more people behind you." King Ping was shocked but did not turn his head. He wanted to say something but could not as he was forced to retreat by the elder's divine light fist. 2 black shadows came out of the woods like ghosts and each hit King Ping's back. King Ping flew up with a bang and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Even with the treasured armor, he was still seriously injured. The palm energy seemed to be able to hit his body through the treasured armor. It was very strange. "Your Highness!" The 8 guards were shocked and angry. Their bodies abruptly swelled up, and a baleful aura emanated from them. Their bodies seemed to emit cold air, and their eyes were bloodshot. They completely ignored the black-robed old man's attack, trading injury for injury. Both sides were injured. The black-robed old men also fought with their lives on the line. They activated their secret arts and were ready to sacrifice themselves. They didn't show any weakness in the face of the 8 guards' counterattack. Pring 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 pring, the sound of fists and palms hitting the body was like a heavy hammer beating a drum. The muffled sound shook people's hearts. Chu Li abruptly withdrew his heavenly demonic orb. Immediately, a surge of inner energy surged into his body, threatening to burst his meridians. The heavenly demonic orb suddenly curled up and absorbed all of his inner energy. Chu Li let the heavenly demonic orb absorb his inner energy while he used his inner energy to heal himself. He fixed his gaze on King Ping. After King Ping was sent flying, the 3 elders were relentless. They caught up to him in the air and struck him with their palms. Chu Li's face darkened. Although King Ping was protected by the treasured armor, he couldn't block the strange palm energy of the 2 black-robed old men. Their palm energy was like hitting a bull across a mountain. It bypassed the treasured armor and hit his internal organs. King Ping was seriously injured and could no longer maintain his body. He felt like he was going to fall to the ground. Bang! Chu Li suddenly disappeared and appeared in front of King Ping. He carried him on his back and ran. "Where do you think you're going?" The 3 elders used time steps and surrounded Chu Li and King Ping. Chu Li snorted coldly. He swung his hand and a cold light flashed. His body followed the cold light and shot out. Ding! A sword light blocked the flying blade. The other two elders' divine light fist collided with Chu Li. Chu Li had no choice but to take it head-on. He wanted to fight with the elders until both sides were injured. However, the three elders used the secret skill of great light. Their cultivation level was amazing and their speed was even faster. They were like ghosts. Their figures could not be seen clearly and they were powerful. After Chu Li consumed many wind speed pills and giant spirit pills, his speed and strength increased greatly. He was not inferior to the black-robed old men who used the secret skill. The only thing he lacked was inner energy. Fortunately, he had the heavenly demonic orb. Once the overbearing inner energy entered his body, it was swallowed by the heavenly demonic orb before it could cause any damage. In this way, Chu Li was barely able to block it. However, he could only block one of them. He could not block the three of them together. Swoosh! A sword pierced his arm. The tip of the sword slid through the floating silkworm-treasured clothing. It did not pierce through, but the overbearing force of the sword caused him to stagger and stop his forward momentum. Your Royal Highness! The 8 great protectors were still rushing over, but they were trapped. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Your Royal Highness, you should practice your light body technique and be ready to escape at any time. Lying on his back, King Ping coughed and spat out a mouthful of blood. He smiled bitterly. If I can survive this, I must practice my light body technique when I get back. Chu Li faced a divine light fist head-on. He ignored the fist force that entered his body and shot out again. He wanted to escape from the three men's encirclement. Swoosh! 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 The three old men were excited to use the secret skill of great light, but their minds were still unusually calm. They saw Chu Li's weakness and drew their swords to stop him. Chu Li suddenly dodged and escaped from the encirclement. The three old men disappeared in a flash and reappeared beside him. Their swordsmanship formed a dense net that enveloped him. Chu Li drew his sword and swung it. Ding 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 ding. Chu Li's longsword was like lightning, but it could not block the three men's swords. He was hit from time to time, but it was always blocked by the floating silkworm-treasured clothing. He could block 2 of the old men's swords, but not 3. If it was not for the floating silkworm-treasured clothing, he would have been pierced into a beehive. Noticing that he was wearing treasured clothing, the 3 old men suddenly changed their swordsmanship and stabbed at his thigh. Even though Chu Li's sword was as fast as lightning, he could not block the trio's mercury-like sword force. His thigh was hit twice. King Ping said in a low voice, "Let me down." Chu Li said, "You go first." As soon as he said that, he twisted his body, grabbed King Ping's waist, and sent him flying. King Ping was thrown far away like a shot put. He was moving at an incredible speed. Chu Li swung his arm and 2 flying blades shot out. At the same time, he shot out a petrifying finger. He had not used the petrifying finger all this while. He was waiting for this moment, when their attention was on King Ping, to catch him off guard. After the finger force, a flying blade was shot at the old man whose body was frozen. He was overjoyed and wanted to kill one. As long as he killed one, the situation could be reversed. As the flying blade approached the old man's throat, a sword light appeared and blocked the flying blade with a ding. This delay allowed the old man who was hit by the petrifying finger to recover. He shouted, "Be careful of this young man's finger force. It's strange." 2 of them covered Chu Li with their swords while the other old man shot at King Ping. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and reappeared in front of King Ping. He caught him and continued to run. The 3 old men continued to surround them, and the situation became worse. The injury on his thigh affected his speed. "Hey!" The 3 old men suddenly put one hand on their companion's back, and the 3 of them joined as one. The old man in the lead swung his arm and shot out a flying blade. The electric light flashed in the air. Chu Li noticed that something was wrong in advance, but it was too late to avoid it. Chapter 3775. P.S. Update complete. I'm really sorry, these 3 chapters were too difficult to write. King Ping called out, Chu Li. Chu Li looked down at his chest and looked up at the 3 elders. This attack seemed to have exhausted their energy. After one slash, they immediately became dispirited. Go! Chu Li shouted and sealed all the acupuncture points on his body. This penetrating wound was like an opening in a dam. His inner energy poured out like a flood. In the blink of an eye, his mighty energy disappeared without a trace. His whole body was sore and weak. He wanted to use his light body technique, but his body staggered and fell to the ground with King Ping. Both of them fell to the ground and could not move. It was as if they had lost their bones and could not exert any strength. King Ping was seriously injured and weak. One more hit and he would die. Chu Li could not exert any strength either. He could only lie down and pant. The life and death scripture brought over a vast amount of spiritual energy, but it could not bring them strength. They could only watch helplessly as the 3 elders approached them slowly, looking down at them from above. King Ping chuckled and shook his head. He did not expect to die here instead of on the battlefield. Chu Li turned and said, Your Royal Highness, we're going to the underworld together today. Congratulations, Your Royal Highness, you're going to reunite with the princess. King Ping said, I'm too ashamed to see the princess. I couldn't avenge her. Compared to avenging her, the princess might prefer you to accompany her. Chu Li smiled. Both of them looked calm, as if they did not see the 3 elders. The 8 great protectors in the distance had gone crazy. However, the crazier they were, the more chaotic their body movement and martial arts were. Soon, they were hit by the black-robed elders. Even with their secret skills, killing intent, and courage, they could not transcend their bodies. No matter how strong their willpower was, they could not resist their bodies and fell unwillingly. After the black-robed elders knocked down the protectors, they went to help their companions. In a 2-on-1 situation, the protectors were even more powerless. Soon, the 8 great protectors fell. When they fell, Chu Li and King Ping were still talking. King Ping showed a trace of regret and pain. He sighed and said, I'm sorry to the princess. Ever since we got married, I've spent less than a month with the princess. She's been lonely all these years. She's always wanted a child by her side, but I've been busy with military affairs and had no time to spare, so the princess couldn't fulfill her wish. Chu Li said, It's useless to think about these things now. When I get to the underworld, I'll meet the princess again and accompany her. It's a pity that I haven't gotten married yet. It's lonely being alone. Do you have a woman you like? King Ping lay on the ground and looked at him. Chu Li turned over and pressed on his chest. His injuries had already healed a little. He sighed. Yes, it's within reach, yet it's so far away. He was confident in the life and death scripture, but when the time came, the life and death scripture might not be effective. If the emperor were to make a move and end his life with a single palm strike, he would definitely be too lazy to cut off his head. He was confident that he could resurrect with the life and death scripture, but he had no confidence against these fellows, because they would definitely cut off his head. If his head was cut off, he might not be able to come back to life. Chu Li was indeed a little regretful. He had always wanted to not force Shao Qi and take things one step at a time. After all, life was long and he could live for more than 300 years. No matter how good a relationship was, it would not be fresh after 300 years. Therefore, he enjoyed the feeling of pursuing. Shao Qi's heart was tightly shut, and other men could not enter. He could take things slowly like stewing soup. When the time was right, his feelings would naturally deepen, and he would be able to have her completely. Now, it seemed that he had been too slow. Even if he had not mastered the manifestation of nature restoration, he could still see that Shao Qi had loosened up. He should have taken this opportunity to hold her in his arms. If he had not been slow, he would have had Shao-Chi completely by now. Are you regretting? King Ping said, I'm the one who caused you to fall into such a desperate situation. Chu Li smiled. I'm regretting. Some things could have been done a long time ago. Your Highness, you have no regrets, but I can't. Unfortunately, fate is fickle, and we still have to leave this world together. As they spoke, the other 8 elders surrounded them and looked at the 2 people on the ground, as if they were watching a show. Chu Li and King Ping turned a blind eye to them and continued talking. Stop talking nonsense, I'll send you off. One of the elders in black said, Don't reincarnate into the Ji dynasty in your next life. It's a tragedy to be born in a weak country. As soon as he finished speaking, he slapped Chu Li with his palm. Pfft! Chu Li spat out a mouthful of blood. An extremely overbearing force poured into him, and a wave of anger attacked his heart, but it was swallowed by the heavenly demonic orb. Chu Li spat out this mouthful of blood in coordination with his palm energy. His face was instantly covered with a layer of green, and he was about to die. He still had one last trick, which was God's limbs. He had not given up hope of escaping. He would pretend to be dead first, and if they still wanted to cut his head off, he would activate God's limbs. If they did not want to die, he would pretend to be dead to get away with it. The elder in black had his face covered, and his gaze was calm as usual. He slapped King Ping again. How dare you! A shout was suddenly heard, like an explosion in front of him. Chu Li felt his mind go blank as if he was struck by lightning. There was only a rumbling sound in his ears, and he could not hear anything else. His vision trembled and became blurry, but the omniscient mirror was still operating. This shout was too powerful for his weakened state, and he almost fainted. He relied on his strong spirit to support himself, and retained a trace of consciousness. The omniscient mirror saw a figure suddenly appear with a dazzling white light. This figure was shrouded in the dazzling white light, and he could not see clearly. Through the omniscient mirror, he could only see a blurry silhouette. He was thin and small, and his movements were unimaginably fast. It was as if the world had stopped in front of his movements. He slapped one of the elders in black on the chest, and then he did not let any of them go. 13 slaps seemed to be completed slowly, and none of the 13 men in black were able to avoid it. All he saw was a surprised look on their faces, and then they were hit by his palm. After the slap, the 13 men in black did not react. The thin man shrouded in white light picked up King Ping, glanced at Chu Li, and then turned into a white light that shot into the sky, and instantly disappeared. Bang, 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 bang. The 13 men in black suddenly exploded into pieces, as if they were dismembered. Their arms, legs, and heads were all shot far away, and not a single drop of blood was spilled. It was as if there was no blood left in their bodies. Chu Li lay on the ground motionless, and the 8 great protectors were moaning in the distance. Chu Li frowned, but he was still trying to reconstruct the figure just now. The white light around him was like a blazing sun falling in front of him, and even the omniscient mirror did not dare to look directly at him. His cultivation level was beyond imagination, and 13 hidden masters from the Holy Church of Light were killed by his palm. If they were like this, he would not be any different. If this palm had landed on him, even if he had the heavenly demonic orb, he would still be dismembered. He could not help but shudder at the thought of this. Could the life and death scripture really protect him when he was hit by such a palm force? Could he really revive? He was really not confident. He also vaguely guessed the identity of this person. It was the Emperor that he had not seen. An enlightened master's attack was so powerful, and it was really terrifying. He struggled to get up and gave the 8 great protectors spirit pills. Then, he used his light body technique and flew away. When he entered the deep forest, he used God's limbs to return to his courtyard and started to heal his injuries after consuming the pills. Chapter 3776. He cleared his mind of distracting thoughts and replayed the earlier scene in his mind. Although Chu Li was struggling with King Ping, the omniscient mirror was able to observe the entire situation in his mind. At this time, he replayed the scene. Not only did he see the battle between King Ping and the 4 hidden masters, but he also saw the 8 great protectors and their respective opponents. The 8 great protectors were top-notch masters in the military with high cultivation levels, but they could not be compared to the hidden masters from the Holy Church of Light. After all, 100 years of cultivation was not comparable to 40 or 50 years of cultivation. After 100 years, there would be a qualitative change in one's power, and it would become more powerful. He had all kinds of divine skills that could stop a 100-year-old master. If he did not want to show his god's limbs in front of others, he would have escaped with King Ping. There were many things in the world that could restrain divine powers. If he was plotted against, he could not use it as a trump card. It was not safe to play dead with the life and death scripture, so he should not use God's limbs unless necessary. The hidden masters were not only powerful in their cultivation levels, but also in their swordsmanship. It was exquisite and tight with few flaws. The fact that they could block his light blade with their swordsmanship showed how powerful they were. What caught his attention the most was still that figure. Was this the power of an enlightened master? The light was as bright as the sun, so bright that people could not look at it directly. His omniscient mirror could not even see the face clearly. He could only see a figure. The feeling of falling from the sky suffocated him. He felt like an ant standing under a towering mountain, unable to resist, and could only let him kill him. An enlightened master's aura was so strong that it was lethal. He did not even need to move. As long as he stood in front of him, the continuous pressure was enough to make people collapse and scare them to death. Chu Li's spiritual energy was strong, so he could stay conscious. Even those hidden masters could not withstand this pressure. This pressure slowed down the opponent's reaction, movement, and inner energy. They could only watch helplessly as they were hit, unable to dodge. It was extremely terrifying. Chu Li speculated that he would not be a match for them if he were in their shoes. His god's limbs would be useless as well. Even if he was slightly stronger than the 12 hidden masters, the outcome would still be the same. He would have to watch helplessly as he was struck and torn apart. He did not know if the life and death scripture could resurrect him. It was probably impossible. He was dead. It seemed that enlightened masters were not to be provoked. He sighed and shook his head. The next morning, Chu Li was recuperating on his bed. Currently, his body was both the divine light body and the heavenly demon body. His earth matrix and reincarnation scripture had yet to be mastered, so he had yet to cultivate the earth matrix and reincarnation scripture. However, it was already extremely powerful. In just one night, the wound on his chest had already grown a thin membrane and tender flesh had grown. Chu Li received the imperial edict. Suddenly, a bell-like voice echoed throughout the imperial residence of King, and Chu Li furrowed his brows. They had finally arrived. He reckoned that the emperor would not silence him because he had already met King Ping, and it was too late to do so. However, he knew that what he had done was certain, and he would inevitably be punished in the future. He didn't expect an imperial edict to be issued. Chu Li, receive your orders. A loud and majestic voice rang out again. Chu Li raised his voice and said, Chu Li, receive the edict. He floated out of the courtyard and arrived outside the gate. King An's imperial residence's vermilion lacquer gate was already wide open, and the huge bronze nails were shining brightly. 2 middle-aged men in black clothes stood at the bottom of the steps at the gate. They were holding an imperial edict written on a yellow silk scroll. Their eyes were calm and their expressions were solemn. They were quietly looking at the gate. Chu Li strode out of the gate and arrived at the bottom of the steps. He gave a fist salute and said, Chu Li, receive your orders. As soon as he finished speaking, a flurry of footsteps came from behind him. Xiao Shi was dressed in a bluish-white gown with golden chrysanthemums embroidered on the cuffs. It was elegant yet luxurious. A white veil covered her beautiful face, revealing only a pair of eyes that were as deep as the abyss. When she glanced at them, it was enough to captivate one's soul. She was escorted by Yang Su, Menglon, and the other maids. She walked out gracefully like a willow in the wind. Lu Xing and the other protectors guarded her closely. They looked around vigilantly and were ready to pounce at any time. After Consort Ping was assassinated, the imperial residences paid more attention to the protectors. Lu Xing and the others were also very careful. What happened? She came to Chu Li's side. Chu Li shook his head. A middle-aged imperial house protector in black clothes stepped forward and opened the imperial edict. Chief of King An's imperial residence, Centurion of Secret Guardians Hall, Rank 1 scribe Chu Li, has deceived the emperor and betrayed the emperor's grace. He is hereby ordered to leave the capital in 5 days and arrive at the imperial mausoleum within 10 days. He will be appointed as an imperial mausoleum guard. He used his inner energy to speak. His voice reverberated in the sky like a bronze bell. Not only did it resound in King An's imperial residence, but it could also be heard from a few miles away. Half of Fairy's capital could hear it clearly. Chu Li smiled bitterly and extended his hand. Yes, Your Majesty. Xiao Shi's eyes turned cold. She glanced at the 2 imperial house protectors. The 2 of them gave a fist salute and smiled bitterly. Consort, we're just following orders. This is an order from the emperor. He wants us to announce it to the entire city. The emperor is really interesting, Xiao Shi scoffed. He's afraid that the world won't know about a demotion order. The 2 fists saluted and left in a hurry without asking for any reward. Chu Li studied the imperial edict. He shook his head and laughed. The emperor was being merciful by demoting him to guard the imperial mausoleum. He ended up in the same situation as Su Huanda. Now the 2 of them could be companions. Su Huanda was no longer in danger. He would be able to return to the Secret Guardians Hall sooner or later. This was a good outcome. With the imperial edict, the emperor would not look for him to settle the score. However, the emperor did not want to use him anymore. He should just stay put and get out of Fairy's capital. Xiao Shi turned to look at him. Chu Li, what's going on? Why did this come out of nowhere? How did you offend the emperor? Chu Li said, let's talk inside. Xiao Shi glanced at the people around her, who had different expressions. She waved her hand and returned to Tianshu Courtyard with Chu Li. Xiao Qi was not in Tianshu Courtyard. She was here most of the time at night. During the day, she would not come over for half a day. Instead, she would cultivate in the residence next to the imperial residence. Xiao Shi sent everyone away to talk to Chu Li. Is it because of what you told King Ping? Xiao Shi asked with a frown. She stared at him with her deep and bright eyes. It shouldn't be. King Ping wouldn't have told him. Moreover, he couldn't have told him so soon. She did not know that Chu Li was injured last night. Chu Li went straight to his courtyard. After a night, no one could tell that he was injured. Chu Li told her about what happened last night. Xiao Shi said angrily, the emperor is so cruel. You saved King Ping. No matter what, you should have made up for your mistake and let bygones be bygones. Yet, he sent you to guard the imperial mausoleum. How infuriating! Chu Li said, I have God's limbs. It doesn't matter if I go to the imperial mausoleum or not. That's true. Xiao Shi nodded. Chu Li had God's limbs. No matter where he went, he could come back at night. It was not much different from staying in Fairy's capital. But he purposely made the announcement so loud. It's infuriating. Xiao Shi scoffed. Chu Li sighed. This is the best outcome. If I didn't save King Ping, I'm guessing the emperor would have sent someone to kill me by now. That's true. But you're in peace now. You don't have to worry about the Secret Guardians Hall anymore. Xiao Shi scoffed. From what I see, We don't have to worry about the Holy Church of Light's spies. It's better to just focus on cultivating. Chu Li smiled. It's a pity to give up just like that. You're destined to be a laborer. Xiao Shi scoffed. All right, guard the Imperial Mausoleum then. Go and rest. Who knows, you might be transferred back soon. It won't be possible for a while. Chu Li shook his head. They think I'm dishonest and won't use me anymore. The residence needs to be careful in case someone hits me when I'm down. I'll let my younger sister stay here, Xiao Shi said. Chu Li nodded. As he lost his power, the forces that wanted to assassinate Xiao Shi would naturally take advantage of this opportunity. When do you plan to leave? There's no rush. The 5th day. I've been in Fairy's capital for so long, but I haven't gone out to play. Accompany me and my younger sister for a few days, Xiao Shi said. In the future, Chu Li could come back anytime, but he could not show his face. He could only secretly appear in the imperial residence. It would be difficult for him to experience the prosperity of Fairy's capital. Xiao Shi planned to bring him to eat some good food and drink. Chapter 37-77. Without waiting for Xiao Shi to send someone over to greet her, Xiao Qi came over on her own. She was dressed in a white robe, and her entire body was spotless, as if she was an otherworldly fairy. She had already heard the announcement of the imperial edict. She stared coldly at Chu Li. Chu Li smiled and said, "My lady, we have to part ways. This time, it will be as you wish." Xiao Qi asked, "Are you really going to the imperial mausoleum?" "The imperial decree has been issued. I can't defy it," Chu Li said. Xiao Shi told her everything that Chu Li had done last night. Xiao Qi nodded. "This is the emperor sparing your life. You can be spared from the death penalty, but you can't be spared from punishment. Based on his personality, he won't let you return to the fairy's capital." Chu Li nodded. Xiao Shi smiled and said, "It's all right. He has the limb of God and can come back anytime." Xiao Qi had a strange expression on her face. "What's wrong? Isn't that right?" Xiao Shi noticed her strange expression and quickly asked, "As long as you don't show your face in public. Then you're going to be disappointed, second sister." A faint smile appeared on Xiao Qi's cold face as she said, "You can't use divine powers in the imperial mausoleum." Xiao Shi was surprised. "I can't use my divine powers?" Xiao Qi said, "Just think about it. If the imperial mausoleum can be guarded with divine powers, how can it be guarded?" Xiao Shi's beautiful face darkened as she looked at Chu Li. Chu Li shook his head and asked, "Can I really not use my divine powers?" "That's what I heard." "You'll know once you go and take a look," Xiao Qi said. Xiao Shi frowned and thought for a while before nodding slowly. At first, when Chu Li mentioned it, he was immediately overjoyed after being worried, so he did not think too much about it. Now that he was reminded by Xiao Qi, he thought about it carefully and felt that it made sense. If divine powers could really be used, who could defend against it? The imperial mausoleum was as luxurious as the Forbidden Palace. The underground palace and the Forbidden Palace were exactly the same. It was just that the people sitting in the palace were the remains of the previous emperors, not living people. The guards in this underground palace were similar to those in the imperial house, perhaps even more so. It was said that the emperor's slough contained a great mystery of the enlightened master, and outsiders were not allowed to peek into it. Because the emperor was an enlightened master, the defense of the Forbidden Palace was far better than that of the guards. Therefore, in terms of security, the imperial mausoleum was even better than the Forbidden Palace. Xiao Shi scoffed. "Isn't that the end? Once he goes to the imperial mausoleum, Chu Li won't be able to return." Xiao Qi nodded. Xiao Shi frowned as she looked at Chu Li. Chu Li said, "I'll think of something." Xiao Qi said faintly, "If it's that easy, guarding the imperial mausoleum wouldn't be such a tough job." Chu Li smiled confidently. "All right, you'll be able to think of a way. Don't stay there all day, there's still something waiting for you here." Xiao Shi scoffed. Chu had become her pillar of support. Although there was nothing much to do in King An's imperial residence, Chu only sat down and chatted for a while when he returned. Everything was on the right track. The protectors were strong enough, and with Shao-Chi around, there was no need to worry about their safety. However, when Chu was not around, she felt a sense of unease. She felt a little weak and unsettled. The four of them left the imperial residence of King An without any protectors. It was just Chu, Shao-Chi, Shao-Shi, and Suru. Half of the three women's faces were covered by white veils, revealing only a pair of bright eyes. Chu was dressed in a green tunic with a long sword hanging at his waist. He exuded a heroic aura with a hint of magnanimity. The four of them strolled around for the entire morning and then went to a restaurant for lunch. This Ling Yun Tower was considered the top restaurant in Fairy's capital. It had a total of 3 floors and was about 30 meters tall. Standing on the top floor and looking down at Fairy's capital, it was as prosperous as Brocade. It was truly a heroic atmosphere. The chef of the restaurant was also superb. It was said that the chef's ancestor used to be in the imperial kitchen of the imperial house. The four of them arrived very early. There were only 5 or 6 tables on the 3rd floor that were occupied. They found a table by the window and ordered a few of the signature dishes of the imperial family. The dishes were served quickly. They looked, smelled, and tasted great, as expected of the imperial cuisine. Chu and the 3 women ate with relish. The 3 women only ate and did not drink. They chewed slowly and elegantly. On the other hand, Chu drank a pot of fine wine by himself. He was leisurely and Suru poured wine for him. They did not talk much. They only listened to the chatter around them. Listening to the news in Fairy's capital was also a kind of pleasure. "Everyone, have you heard?" A slightly plump old man stroked his beard and shook his head. He sighed and said, "The head chief of King An's imperial residence, Chu, has fallen. I heard the imperial edict with my own ears." Another thin old man shook his head and said, "This head chief Chu is too insolent. This day will come sooner or later." "That's not entirely true. This head chief Chu is just and fair. He is not afraid of power." Another black-faced old man said in a low voice, "It's rare for such a person to be born. It's a pity that good people don't live long." "He's not dead yet. Although he's not dead, he's almost there. He's going to guard the imperial mausoleum. He's done for the rest of his life. He can only live in obscurity in the imperial mausoleum. He won't appear in front of people anymore. His life is completely over. He won't appear in Fairy's capital either. Sigh, it's such a pity that such a person would end up like this. Actually, he's still young and has a bright future. He might even be able to leave the imperial mausoleum and return to Fairy's capital in the future." "Elder Zhang, have you heard of anyone who came out of the imperial mausoleum?" "Everything in the imperial mausoleum is confidential. Once you go in, you can forget about coming back. You'll spend the rest of your life in the imperial mausoleum." "Doesn't that mean he's finished?" "He can only live in the imperial mausoleum for the rest of his life. He'll be isolated from the martial arts world." "How pitiful! The higher one climbs, the harder one falls." The slightly plump old man shook his head and sighed. He used to be arrogant. This day will come. The Emperor is still the one in charge of Fairy's capital. He won't have a good ending for offending the prince. Deceiving the Emperor. He's too bold. That's the Emperor we're talking about. As the Emperor and an enlightened master, he was respected by everyone in this martial arts world. They were shocked that Chu dared to deceive the Emperor. He dared to go against the prince and the crown prince. They didn't expect him to deceive the Emperor. He was too bold. The imperial residence of King An is going to decline without the head chief. King An is actually being pressured by this head chief. Now that he's free, the imperial residence of King An might even prosper. Haha, a rank 1 head chief. Which royal highness can stand him? Chu Li took a sip of wine and pondered. Xiao Shi raised her eyebrows and smiled. Looks like you're unpopular. Humph. Xiao Qi snorted. She felt that their words were harsh. Su Ru shook her head. Chu Li said, since ancient times, it's nothing out of the ordinary. I guess there will be a lot of people waiting for you. Xiao Shi said, especially Prince Qing. He must be ecstatic. That must be the case. Chu Li smiled, and Ling Tao. I'm afraid he's going to get drunk and sing to his heart's content. As they spoke, footsteps were heard. A few protectors went upstairs and looked around. Their gazes landed on Xiao Qi. Seeing that she was a woman, their gazes softened. They turned around and shouted, Imperial Crown Prince, no problem. Qiao San led the way. He came up first and bowed. Imperial Crown Prince, please. Ling Tao waved his fan and swaggered up to the third floor. He glanced at the crowd lazily. His gaze suddenly froze when he saw Chu Li. His white and plump face suddenly broke into a smile. Ha, who is this? Chu Li held his wine glass and looked at him. Ling Tao laughed out loud. Isn't this the famous head chief Chu? Chu Li said lightly, Imperial Crown Prince Tao, it seems like you've forgotten your lesson. Chu Li, things are different now. Ling Tao closed his fan and smacked his palm. He smiled. What can you do to me? Even if I'm going to the Imperial Mausoleum, I'm still a rank 1. Beating you up is not a problem. Chu Li held his wine glass and said lazily. Chapter 3778. Chu Li rolled his eyes and squinted at Qiao San. Loyal, that's rare. Qiao San scoffed. The Imperial Crown Prince has such a high status. Even if you, Head Chief Chu, have a high position, you can't talk to him like that. Chu Li asked, what rank is he? Rank isn't everything. Qiao San scoffed. Chu Li snickered and turned to look at Ling Tao. Imperial Crown Prince Tao, it seems like this protector of yours doesn't care about rank at all. His courage is commendable, I'm impressed. Ling Tao coughed and swung his fan. The people of the martial arts world don't care about rank. What they care about is bloodline. I'm of the royal bloodline. It's a shame that you didn't inherit the Emperor's excellence. Chu Li shook his head. A good-for-nothing, what a pity. Chu Li, you're already in this state, what are you so proud of? Ling Tao could no longer keep up the act. He might as well go and guard the Imperial Mausoleum. There was nothing to worry about and they would never meet again. Chu Li said, guarding the Imperial Mausoleum is a nice job. Haha, nice job. Ling Tao laughed in disdain. You sure know how to comfort yourself. Nice job. Chu Li smiled. I can focus on cultivating my martial arts. It's no different from isolated cultivation. It is isolated cultivation, but it's death. Ling Tao pouted. Once you enter the Imperial Mausoleum, don't even think about coming out. What's the use of cultivating martial arts? There's no place to use it, isn't that sad? I believe the Emperor will summon me back. Chu Li said. What a joke. You deceived the Emperor. With such a crime, even the new Emperor won't dare to use you. Ling Tao glanced at him and shook his head. Grandfather hates you, he'll never let you out. Who can see the future clearly? Stubborn. Ling Tao said in disdain, your proud days are over. The Imperial Mausoleum is boring, let's see if you can take it. Chu Li smiled. Xiao Shi's face darkened and Xiao Qi's face darkened. Ling Tao closed fists saluted. Third aunt, I'll take my leave. Xiao Shi said coldly, Ling Tao, is what you said true? Ling Tao smiled and said, in any case, Head Chief Chu is finished. Third auntie should also be prepared. Make proper arrangements and plan ahead. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. He could not be bothered to argue with Chu Li. Instead, Chu Li was an insignificant person. This fellow. Xiao Shi shook her head and looked at Chu Li. Chu Li looked at the worried faces of the three women and smiled. Ignore him, there will be a way. I hope so, Xiao Shi sighed. She had always been confident in Chu Li, but the news she had heard was getting worse and worse. It was as if entering the imperial mausoleum was like entering the cold palace, and there was no way for him to get out. This made her feel a little diffident and worried. Shao Qi muttered, "Looks like it's easier to get in than to get out. You have to be careful." Chu Li nodded. The four of them returned to King An's imperial residence dispiritedly. Just as they reached the main entrance, the external Chief Zhu ran over and said in a low voice, "Princess, head chief, King Jing is waiting in the residence. He has been here for an hour." Chu Li nodded. "I'll be right there." Xiao Shi and Shao Qi entered the residence and returned to Tianshu courtyard while Chu Li went to the main hall. The main hall was brightly lit. King Jing was dressed in a purple robe and was sitting in an armchair reading a book. He looked focused and solemn, and his aura was faintly discernible. The sound of footsteps coming from outside interrupted him. He put down the book and saw Chu Li coming in with a fist salute, so he stood up and did a fist salute. "Thank you for waiting, Your Royal Highness. Please forgive me." Chu Li did a fist salute and sat opposite King Jing. A pretty maid served a cup of tea and retreated gracefully. Chu Li took a sip of tea and put down the teacup. "Your Royal Highness, why did you come to the imperial residence in person?" It was his first time meeting King Jing in King An's imperial residence. King Jing had never been to King An's imperial residence before. King Jing sighed. "I heard the imperial edict. Chief Chu, are you really going to guard the imperial mausoleum?" "The emperor has given me the imperial edict. I can't defy it." Chu Li nodded. King Jing frowned and looked at him. "What happened that made father so angry?" Chu Li said, "I found the mastermind behind Consort Ping's assassination and told King Ping about it." "Who's the mastermind?" King Jing asked. "Don't tell me it's me?" Many people were saying that he had sent someone to assassinate the consort to affect King Ping's mood, so that he would not be able to lead the army to war. "It's not Your Royal Highness." Chu Li shook his head. "It's Zheng Dynasty's mysterious pavilion." "Zheng Dynasty?" King Jing was in disbelief. "How can it be them? Isn't it the Holy Church of Light?" He shook his head. Mysterious pavilion hid a pawn in the Holy Church of Light and used it at the critical moment. Everyone thought it was the Holy Church of Light. King Jing clenched his teeth and sneered. "Mysterious pavilion is ruthless." This was a vicious move. It was hard for anyone to link it to them. Everyone guessed that the murderer was either the Holy Church of Light from the Li dynasty or him. Chu Li sighed. King Jing said, "I heard that fourth brother wants to give up his military power. He's disheartened after the consort's assassination and refuses to return to the border. He wants to live in seclusion and ignore the world. I heard that he's going to guard the imperial mausoleum too." Chu Li looked at him in shock. He did not expect King Ping to be so decisive and give up his military power. What was worse was that he was going to guard the imperial mausoleum. Speaking of which, fourth brother is really pitiful. Sister-in-law is the most innocent. Mysterious pavilion deserves to die. King Jing's face darkened at the end of his speech. He gritted his teeth and his voice was cold and murderous. When he thought about his consort being assassinated, he felt a chill run down his spine and his heart beat faster. He dared not imagine how painful it would be. Mysterious Pavilion's move was too vicious. It was intolerable. The Emperor agreed to let King Ping guard the Imperial Mausoleum? How's that possible? King Jing shook his head and smiled bitterly. After listening to the Emperor's imperial edict, I suddenly realized that fourth brother was probably fighting with father. He must have said that because his pleas for you were unsuccessful. Chu Li nodded slowly. If King Ping didn't plead for me, the Emperor would have killed me. Back then, the Emperor sent Commander Su to the Imperial Mausoleum to hide this news. He thought that I didn't know who the mastermind was. In the end, King Ping sent someone to question me. I couldn't bear to lie, so I told him the truth. King Jing sighed. Chief Chu, you're a sentimental person too. He could guess Chu Li's situation at the time. If he had gone against father's intentions and revealed the mastermind, he would have been killed. However, Chu Li had revealed it. He was lucky to be sent to guard the imperial mausoleum. If fourth brother had not pleaded for him, Chu Li would have been dead according to father's temper. Chu Li said, I can't change this temper of mine. Moreover, as a cultivator, it'll be difficult for him to achieve perfection if he betrays his own heart. I thank you on behalf of fourth brother. King Jing fist saluted. Chu Li smiled. Your Royal Highness, you're relieved now, aren't you? King Jing smiled bitterly. I didn't expect fourth brother to be like this. However, I'm really worried without fourth brother at the border. Chu Li smiled without saying a word. King Jing's words had a deeper meaning. Clearly, he was not worried about the Li dynasty. Instead, he was worried that King Ping's subordinates would be dissatisfied. If that happened, it would be difficult to control the army. King Ping had a high prestige in the army. If he left suddenly without a word, how could his subordinates be at ease? They might think that the emperor had forcefully taken away King Ping's military power and would be dissatisfied. King Jing picked up his teacup and took a sip. He lowered his head and said nothing. Chu Li smiled. If King Ping comes to see me, I'll ask him to write a letter to his subordinates. That would be the best. King Jing stood up and fist saluted solemnly. Chapter 37-79. King Jing sighed and said, Chief Chu, father has decided not to use you anymore. Chu Li nodded. Deceiving the emperor is a very serious crime. Even the next emperor wouldn't dare to use you. King Jing looked up at him and said in a low voice, Once you step into the imperial mausoleum, you're destined to be trapped there for the rest of your life. You won't be able to come out. No one has ever come out of the imperial mausoleum? Chu Li frowned. King Jing shook his head slowly. No. In that case, my fate has already been decided. Yes. Forget it, I have to accept my fate. Since my fate is like this, and I can't go against the emperor, I can't just run away and be chased by the entire world. There's only one way to escape from the imperial mausoleum. King Jing said in a low voice, The only way. I'm all ears. Chu Li sat up straight. King Jing took a deep breath. Become an enlightened master. Chu Li frowned and remained silent. King Jing said, Rumor has it that the imperial mausoleum contains the secrets of the enlightened masters. If you can understand it, you can become an enlightened master. Others may not have much hope, but Chief Chu, your comprehension is amazing. I heard from Yurong that your aptitude is rare in the world. Maybe you have a glimmer of hope. Enlightened master, Chu Li smiled and nodded slowly. King Jing said, There's always a way out. From the looks of it, Chief Chu, this is the only way out. Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Chu Li closed fist saluted and nodded slowly. This king has said what he wanted to say. King Jing put down his teacup, stood up and fist saluted. I'll take my leave now. Let me know when you're leaving the capital city. I'll send you off. All right. Chu Li nodded in agreement. King Jing turned around and walked out. Chu Li walked him to the main gate. Just as King Jing was about to leave, he heard a muffled rumble and the ground shook. More than 20 horses galloped over. 20 riders surrounded 2 elderly men who were dressed in luxurious clothing and had a graceful bearing. They arrived at the main entrance of King An's imperial residence. In front of the imperial residence of King An was a spacious piece of flat land. It was spacious enough for 22 horses to gallop. Greetings, 7th uncle, 8th uncle. King Jing gave a fist salute and bowed. Chu Li fist saluted. Your Royal Highnesses. The 20 cavalrymen parted to the sides. 2 graceful and luxurious-looking elders rode their horses in front of King Jing and leaped down from their horses nimbly. They were Prince Bao and Prince Kong. Prince Bao sized up King Jing and smiled. Sixth brother, you're here too? King Jing said, Yes. Prince Bao smiled and said, "Aren't you afraid that the Emperor will be angry if you come over?" King Jing smiled. "You don't have to be angry, father." Prince Bao nodded in satisfaction. Prince Kong said with a smile, "Now, everyone is afraid of avoiding little Chu. You've put in a lot of effort to come here. I have something to discuss with Chief Chu." King Jing glanced at Chu Li. "I'm not just here to visit." Prince Bao stroked his beard and smiled. "Young Chu is going to guard the Imperial Mausoleum soon, what else is there?" He looked at Chu Li and shook his head. "It's about fourth brother," King Jing said. "Sigh, looks like fourth sister is really sad." Prince Bao shook his head. Who wouldn't be sad when something like this happened to them? They were originally a family, but now they're all alone. How could they not be sad? Fortunately, he's still young. He should quickly marry a consort and settle down. Prince Kong scoffed. "I heard that he wants to guard the Imperial Mausoleum. He's willful and mischievous. He's been killing enemies at the front lines, but his nest has been raided. He's in pain and regret. I think fourth brother has aged a lot." Prince Bao sighed. Encountering such a huge change, it's going to be tough for him. King Jing nodded slowly. Chu Li smiled. "Your Royal Highnesses, since you're here, come in and have some tea." "We're just here to ask for a cup of tea." Prince Kong smiled. The two followed Chu Li into the residence. King Jing watched them enter, then he stared at the main door of King An's imperial residence for a long time before he turned and left. This sixth brother doesn't visit for no reason. Something must have happened, right? Prince Bao sat on the armchair and took a sip of tea. He's only concerned about the imperial court. He's so busy that he doesn't have the time to visit. Chu Li smiled. King Jing is worried that the border is unstable. Why would he look for you if the border is unstable? Prince Kong asked. Chu Li said, "I can talk to King Ping, so he asked me to help." Understood. The two princes were smart people. They suddenly understood King Jing's intention. They shook their heads and laughed. This was King Jing. "How is it, young Chu? Your good days are over, aren't they?" Prince Kong chuckled. "Are you worried?" "Yes," Chu Li said helplessly. "The Emperor won't let me live." "Young Chu, do you know that one can enter but not leave the Imperial Mausoleum?" Prince Bao stroked his beard and sighed. His expression turned solemn. In terms of importance, the Imperial Mausoleum is much more important than the Imperial House. Once you step into the Imperial Mausoleum, there's almost no chance for you to come out. Chu Li nodded. However, almost no one knows that the Imperial Mausoleum is separated into the inside and outside. Once you step into the Imperial Mausoleum, it's indeed impossible for you to come out. It's impossible for the Emperor to summon you back, but if you're outside, you'll have a chance to come back, Prince Bao said. Chu Li nodded slowly. He was deep in thought. That was more like it. When he was escorting Su Huanda, he realized that Su Huanda was not too pessimistic. There was still a faint hope for him to return to the fairies' capital. However, after he received the imperial edict, he received news that no one could come back from the Imperial Mausoleum, including King Jing, who had just left. This is supposed to be confidential. Ordinary people can't come into contact with it, including King Jing and the others. Prince Bao's expression was solemn. He said, "Only the Emperor, us, and a few confidants know about it. However, we won't spread it." Chu Li asked, "Do you know about the Secret Guardians Hall?" "The Secret Guardians Hall might know about it." Prince Bao nodded. Chu Li asked, "Your Royal Highness wants to tell me?" "Of course." Prince Bao smiled. "We know what you did to fourth brother. How can we just stand by and watch?" "Thank you, Your Royal Highness." Chu Li fist saluted. Prince Bao said, "Although we know the method, we can't guarantee that you'll be able to use it." Chu Li said, "I'm all ears." It's very difficult to enter the inner mausoleum. Without sufficient cultivation, you won't be able to enter the inner mausoleum. If your martial arts are completely crippled, you won't even be able to enter the outer mausoleum. Prince Bao smiled. Chu Li's eyes lit up. My martial arts are completely crippled? Yes. Prince Bao smiled. Once your martial arts are completely crippled, you won't be able to enter the outer mausoleum. You can only guard outside the imperial mausoleum. This is also considered guarding the mausoleum. It's not against the emperor's edict. Although you still won't be able to leave the imperial mausoleum, there's still hope for you to come back. Prince Kong grinned. After a while, when the emperor's anger has cooled down, we'll put in a good word for you. Who knows, the emperor might be happy and relent, and transfer you back. Chu Li nodded slowly. Prince Bao said, but for a master like you, having your martial arts crippled will be worse than death. I'm afraid you won't be able to take it. Moreover, once your martial arts are crippled, you'll become a useless cripple. The emperor won't use you anymore, so the risk is very high. Prince Kong sighed. Let's not talk about anything else. Once your martial arts are crippled, even if you return to the fairy's capital and the imperial residence, will you have a good life? I'm afraid you might as well stay in the imperial mausoleum. Chu Li smiled. Chapter 3780. Prince Kong scoffed and said, this is more like a trap. Many arrogant and talented people think that they are better than their predecessors and can see through the secrets of the enlightened master. Thus, they enter the inner mausoleum and never come out again. So, young Chu, don't be silly and think that you can see through the secrets of the enlightened master. Chu Li remained silent. He was indeed conceited that his comprehension surpassed everyone else's. He felt that the inner mausoleum was a great temptation. If he could really break through and become an enlightened master in one fell swoop, no one in the world would be able to stop him. How satisfying would that be? He was still rational, so he quickly sobered up. If it was that easy to become a heavenly deity, there would have been heavenly deities long ago. Eighth brother is speaking the truth. Prince Bao said slowly. Don't be bewitched by the enlightened master and think that you can see through the enlightened master. In my opinion, you should just cripple your martial arts. I'll just cultivate outside the imperial tombs. Once I'm back, I'll come back to cultivate in seclusion and recover my martial arts. I'll be a good man again. That's the safest choice, Prince Kong said solemnly. Chu Li thought for a moment, then raised his head and smiled. Thank you, your royal highnesses. I will cripple your martial arts. Decisive. Smart. Prince Kong gave him a thumbs up and said with a smile, this is not an easy decision. On one hand, you have to resist the temptation, and on the other hand, you have to endure the pain. In short, don't change your mind. You must cripple your martial arts. Yes, Chu Li replied. Prince Bao said, but there is a risk in having your martial arts crippled. You have many enemies. If someone knows that you have crippled your martial arts, they might try to kill you along the way. Chu Li said, I'm very lucky I can't be killed. You have to consider this. Prince Bao said, I'll get a few protectors to escort you. Chu Li quickly shook his head. Thank you, your royal highness. There's really no need for that. I don't lack protectors. All right then, you're from the High Duke's public house. You've got a solid foundation. Let's find a chance to plead with the emperor. Prince Bao smiled. The emperor's temper comes and goes quickly. Even after becoming an enlightened master, his temper hasn't changed. The emperor won't be angry that the two of you came here openly and told me this, right? Chu Li smiled. Prince Bao scoffed. Are you afraid that he'll be angry? Prince Kong shook his head and said with a smile, at most, he will reprimand us, nothing will happen. Chu Li nodded. Suddenly, footsteps could be heard from outside. Chief Zhu quietly came to the outside of the main hall and said in a low voice, Head Chief, His Highness King Ping has arrived. Open the middle door. I'll personally welcome you, Chu Li said. Yes. Chief Zhu hurriedly left. Alright, we're done talking. I won't disturb you and fourth brother. Prince Bao stood up. Prince Kong also stood up and said with a smile, Little Chu, you are a busy man. Chu Li could not help but laugh. Your Royal Highness, you're teasing me. I've been really busy these 2 days. The two of them strode out of the hall, and the guards outside hurriedly followed, escorting the three of them out. When they exited the main gate, they saw King Ping in the middle of the 8 protectors. King Ping's burly face was cold as if he had seen through everything and was indifferent to everything. Upon seeing Prince Bao and Prince Kong, King Ping went forward and gave them a fist salute. 7th uncle, 8th uncle. Prince Bao and Prince Kong waved their hands and sighed to themselves. However, there was no expression on their faces. They leaped onto their horses and left immediately. King Ping watched them leave and entered the main hall with Chu Li. Chu Li asked, Your Royal Highness, are you still angry because of me? King Ping said in a low voice, I didn't expect my father to be so petty. Chu Li shook his head. As an emperor, my dignity must not be tarnished. His Highness King Jing came over just now and asked you to write a letter to appease the generals of the border army. The two of them had gone through thick and thin together, so there was no need to be polite. If he was polite to King Ping, he would be dissatisfied and become distant. The more impolite he was, the closer they were. I'll write it when I get back, King Ping said. Chu Li said, Your Royal Highness, you must be careful of assassinations. Once I enter Fairy's capital, I won't be afraid of assassinations. King Ping said coldly, My father can rush over at any time. I can't die even if I want to. Chu Li nodded. If he had been worried before, after the appearance of the Emperor, he completely believed that the Emperor had the ability to appear by King Ping's side at any time and save his life. King Ping said, I'm bored now. I'll accompany you to the Imperial Mausoleum. Chu Li shook his head. Your Royal Highness, think about the consort. King Ping fell silent and nodded slowly. If he wanted to take revenge, he had to wait and find an opportunity. If he left the court, he would not be able to move forward with nothing to rely on. Your Royal Highness, if you're free, you might as well participate in court affairs, Chu Li said. King Ping sighed and nodded. He really did not want to participate in court affairs. He felt that it was a mess of flies seeking personal gain and scheming against each other. It was not something a man should do. Take your time on the road. I'll see if you can change my father's mind. Your Royal Highness, you don't have to plead for me anymore. I've decided to cripple my martial arts to avoid entering the Imperial Mausoleum. After a while, when the Emperor's anger subsides, Prince Bao and Prince Kong will plead for me, Chu Li said. King Ping frowned. Cripple your martial arts? Don't worry, Your Royal Highness. I can come out. Chu Li smiled. King Ping nodded slowly. The two of them chatted for a while more before King Ping took his leave. Chu Li returned to Tianshu courtyard and told Xiao Shi and Shao Qi about the matter. Both of them frowned. Is this idea reliable? Xiao Shi frowned. It won't be a problem, right? If you really cripple your martial arts and can't come back, you might be bullied over there. How can you bear that? Chu Li smiled. When I first entered the High Duke's public house, I didn't know any martial arts and wasn't bullied. That's different. Xiao Shi rolled her eyes at him. When you entered the High Duke's public house, you were surrounded by acquired masters. As they spoke, Chief Zhu's voice came from outside. Head Chief, Miss Mo from the Verdant Cloud brothel sent an invitation. Chu Li said, Come in. Chief Zhu lowered his head and walked in. He presented the invitation with both hands and then left. Chu Li took a look. It was tonight. The two women glared at him coldly. Chapter 3781. The first White Robe Dodiju competition. In order to repay the support of the book fans, we are holding the White Robe Dodiju event. Dodiju prize money first place, 3,000 RMB second place, 2,000 RMB third place, 1000 RMB 4th place, 800 RMB 5th place, 600 RMB 6th place, 400 RMB 7th to 10th place, 200 RMB. Those who did not get into the top 10, do not be discouraged. 10 lucky prizes will be randomly selected. Reward. Those who did not get the lucky prize, do not be discouraged. There will be a big bag of 1000 renminbi waiting for you. Participation requirements: all white robe subscriptions, group verification, registration, screenshot to Sai. If you know how to play Dodiju, you will form a group of 3. The first round will be an overall selection. The management will randomly assign 3 people to a group. The winner must take a screenshot and send it to the management. It must be a big picture. Everyone only has one chance. If you win, you will be eliminated. The first place will be decided. Event time: Mid-Autumn Festival will start at 8 p.m. You can start registration from the time the announcement is made. Registration will stop at 12:30 noon on the day of Mid-Autumn Festival. The prize money for this event will be exclusively sponsored by the leader of Dream in Your Heart. Thank you, Heart Alliance. P.S. In order to ensure the fairness of the top 10, there will be management staff watching the competition. P.S. Do you think this is the end of the event? No, 1,000,000 Qidian coins will be released. The group will release a specific message. From 1,500 to 5,000 renminbi. As long as I have it, as long as you come, take it all away. Chapter 3782. A bright moon illuminated the entire divine capital. Under the moonlight, the clear rain courtyard of verdant Cloud building was like a dream. In the brightly lit room, the sound of the zither could be heard. The interior of the room was decorated elegantly and pleasantly. The thick moon-white carpet was spotless, and the white gauze curtains fluttered indistinctly. Chu Li and Emo Qingyu each sat in front of a low table. The thick cattail hassock was placed on a thick carpet, which was soft and comfortable to sit on. Emo Qingyu was dressed in a plain white robe. Her beautiful hair was tied up high like a black cloud. Her slender and fair fingers were playing the zither slowly. She lowered her head to play the zither, revealing her snow-white neck that was as slender as ivory. Chu Li squinted his eyes and took a sip of wine from the white jade cup from time to time. He looked relaxed. When the music stopped, Chu Li opened his eyes and clapped his hands in admiration. "Junior brother, it's rare that you're still in the mood." Emo Qingyu stood up with the strings of her guzheng and sat down in front of Chu Li. A faint fragrance wafted into his nose. Her jade-like hand picked up the jade pot and poured another cup for Chu Li. Chu Li smiled. "It's just a trip to the Imperial Mausoleum." The Imperial Mausoleum. Emo Qingyu shook her head gently. She put down the jade pot and sat in front of Chu Li. The two of them were so close that their breaths smelled like orchid. Chu Li said, "Since senior sister knows, then master should know as well, right? Master's junior Shin wants you to return to the mountain." Emo Qingyu sighed faintly. The Imperial Mausoleum is a forbidden place in the martial arts world. Senior sister, do you know the secret of the Imperial Mausoleum? Is there really the secret of the enlightened master? Chu Li asked. Emo Qingyu stood up gracefully and sat down gracefully in front of her low table. The Imperial Mausoleum does have the secret of the enlightened master, but no one knows what the secret is. No one really came out. Every single emperor of the past had to enter and eventually emerge as a heavenly deity. Could it be a trap where people die the moment they enter? If no one comes out of the inner mausoleum, they can't leave the Imperial Mausoleum. However, they can move freely within the Imperial Mausoleum. The inner mausoleum and the outer mausoleum are connected, separated only by a large door. However, once they enter the inner mausoleum, they can never leave the Imperial Mausoleum for the rest of their lives. This is a solemn vow. I see. Chu Li was enlightened. Emo Qingyu sighed. The Imperial Mausoleum is actually a huge formation. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. This formation is extremely powerful. It's not that no one has ever set their eyes on the Imperial Mausoleum, but no one has ever come out after entering. Emochinyu shook her head and said, I don't know how many masters there are in the Imperial Mausoleum. I'm afraid only the Emperor knows, especially the inner mausoleum. Chuli nodded. That's why it's impossible for you to break out of the mausoleum. Emochinyu said, Why don't you disappear halfway and return to Amethyst Mountain directly? Even the Emperor can't do anything to you then. This won't bring trouble to the Amethyst Mountain, right? Chuli asked. Emochinyu's exquisite face revealed a proud expression. Although our Amethyst Mountain does not have an enlightened master, we have the ability to deal with an enlightened master. The Emperor would not dare to attack our Amethyst Mountain. Chuli nodded. This was where the confidence of the four major sects lay, as well as the foundation. Chuli shook his head again. Senior sister, I appreciate your kindness, but I will not return to Amethyst Mountain. Emochinyu looked at him in surprise. Chuli said, Once I leave halfway, I can only hide in Amethyst Mountain. It's no different from entering the Imperial Mausoleum. You can just change your identity and appearance. Emochinyu frowned and said, But once you enter the Imperial Mausoleum, you'll never be able to show your face. I have my own arrangements, Chuli said. Emochinyu asked, You really won't return to Amethyst Mountain? Chuli shook his head. Emochinyu sighed and said, All right, you have your own ideas. I won't be able to persuade you otherwise. I'll tell Masters Junior Shin. Chuli smiled. How's senior sister Emo doing recently? I'm living very comfortably. Emochinyu smiled. It's all thanks to you. Chuli said, If you don't like it, leave early. After I leave Fairy's capital, I might implicate you. I'll act according to circumstances. Emochinyu smiled. Chuli finally settled the matters in Fairy's capital. He directly announced to the public that he would not meet anyone and appeared in Gale City. Gale City had regained its peace. No one seemed to notice the changes in the Roaring Tiger clan, but the undercurrents were surging. Everyone was waiting for Jing Yanwu's arrival. They all knew that Jing Yanwu would never let Zhao Dai go. Zhao Dai's fate was already clear. 100-year-old master versus a rising star. No matter how powerful the rising star was, it was useless. Everyone knew that Zhao Dai did not have many days left to live. Once he met Jing Yanwu, he would definitely die. In the morning, Chuli was lying on a deck chair in the backyard of the residence, basking in the bright sunshine. He was sleepy and comfortable. Lu Shu's short and plump body was lying on the deck chair next to him. Ko Qiong and Feng Wuji were handling the mundane affairs of the Radiance clan. Their injuries were mostly healed. They could not fight, but they could handle the affairs of the clan. Hu Ye and the others are fickle. They don't think highly of us and young master. Lu Shu laid on the chair and yawned lazily. Once young master is defeated, they'll definitely run back to the Roaring Tiger clan. The Roaring Tiger clan won't accept them anymore. Chuli said. I don't think so. They're the essence of the Roaring Tiger clan. Lu Shu scoffed. The White Tiger sect will pinch their noses and accept it. At most, they'll chase Hu Ye away. Without a leader, they'll be easier to control. Chuli nodded. We'll talk about it after we kill Jing Yanwu. If young master can kill Jing Yanwu, they'll definitely be obedient. Lu Shu smiled. But everyone doesn't think you'll win, young master. We'll have to try. Chuli said lazily. I'm just afraid that the other two sects will take the opportunity to cause trouble, Lu Shu said. If they mess up young master's mind, Jing Yanwu will have a higher chance of winning. Based on the Flaming Sun sect's character, it's highly possible. Get ready, Chuli said. Get ready for what? A gentle voice was heard. Two beautiful women in green robes and white veils landed in front of them. Their watery eyes fell on him without blinking. Chuli stood up from the deck chair and gave them a fist salute. Senior Sister Li, Senior Sister Lu. Li Ruolin scoffed. Zhao Dave, you're getting better at stirring up trouble. You're still stirring up trouble at a time like this? Lu Jin asked. Junior brother Zhao, did you really kill Jing Tianhe? Chu Li nodded. Yes, I did. He's quite bold. Doesn't he know that his father is a hidden master? Lu Jin said. We heard that Jing Yanwu has left the mountain and will arrive at Gale City soon. What are you going to do? We'll deal with whatever comes our way. What else can we do? Let's avoid him, Li Ruolin said. Chu Li scoffed. If I avoid him, what will happen to Gale Branch? You can't even protect yourself. Why would you care about Gale Branch? Li Ruolin scoffed. If you're here, you and Gale Branch won't be able to protect yourselves. If you're not here, he might not attack Gale Branch. After all, you're the one who killed his son. I won't avoid him, Chu Li said. I won't back down. When will you change that bad temper of yours? Li Ruolin said impatiently. Look at the situation now. If you don't retreat, you'll die. I won't retreat even if I die. Chu Li scoffed. Li Ruolin was furious. Lu Jin quickly said, All right, since you won't retreat, we'll lend you a hand. The three of us should be able to fight him. Thank you, senior sister Lu. Chu Li gave a fist salute. Lu Shu quietly retreated. If you've recovered your martial arts, you might stand a chance. However, you haven't. Li Ruolin looked at him and shook her head. Hurry up and cultivate. Chu Li nodded. Chapter 3783. It was early in the morning, and the entire Gale City was still quiet. Outside the Radiance clan, there was a young disciple standing beside each of the two stone lions. Both of them had perfected innate mastery. Their hands were on the hilts of their swords and their eyes were shining so brightly that no one dared to look at them directly. The two of them stood on both sides of the door with an eerie aura like two door gods. The bright sunlight shone on them, but it could not dispel the eerie chill on their bodies. Although their faces were tense, their hearts were relaxed. The air was exceptionally fresh, and the sound of burning firewood made them want to run home and have a full meal. They were hungry after standing for an entire night. Even though they were hungry, they were still full of energy and vigor. The two of them heard the faint sound of footsteps, and their spirits rose. They saw a short and thin middle-aged man walking over from the street. He looked ordinary, and his eyes were lifeless. The sharpness in their eyes disappeared and was replaced by a smile. They looked at the approaching middle-aged man. What's the matter, Your Excellency? I've heard that Gale Branch's branch leader, Zhao Dave, is highly skilled in martial arts. I've come to meet you and learn from you. The middle-aged man gave a fist salute slowly. You? The two of them were stunned. You want to challenge the branch leader? Yes. The middle-aged man nodded slowly. The two of them looked at the middle-aged man carefully so that they would not be fooled. There were many masters who hid their strength, and it would not end well if they were to be careless. The man was thin and his dark green robe was a little big, making him look even skinnier. It seemed like a gust of wind could blow him away. No matter how they looked at him, the middle-aged man did not look like a martial arts master. He did not have any inner energy and his spirit was weak. He was just an ordinary person. Stop joking, Your Excellency. One of the young protectors shook his head. Our branch leader is busy and doesn't have time to entertain random people. You should challenge him elsewhere. The Roaring Tiger clan is not bad and they're very powerful. You can try. I'm Jing Yanwu. The middle-aged man gave a fist salute. Jing Yanwu? The two of them were stunned. They were familiar with the name. Jing Tianhe's father was said to be a hidden master of the White Tiger sect who was over 100 years old. Your Excellency, you really know how to joke. A young guard smiled and said, Senior Jing is a top expert who is over 100 years old. How could he look like this? Could it be that you have changed your appearance? I am Jing Yanwu, the real deal. The middle-aged man said slowly, Can't I enter your branch? After saying that, he walked forward. The two young guards hurriedly took a step forward and stood shoulder to shoulder in front of him, blocking the path in front of him. They said in a deep voice, "Stop, don't blame us for being impolite if you continue forward." Regardless of whether he knew martial arts or not, they couldn't let him in before he revealed his identity. Sigh. Jing Yanwu shook his head and waved his right sleeve. Bang bang. It was as if the two young guards had been hit by a carriage at high speed. They flew out and crashed into the stone lions behind them. They grimaced in pain and their faces were twisted. "You really are Jing Yanwu," the two of them cried out in surprise. They landed on the ground, took something out of their bosoms and threw it into the air. Bang! A black shadow soared into the sky and exploded into a mass of black clouds that lingered without dissipating. With light footsteps, a group of people came out of the main door and surrounded Jing Yanwu in the blink of an eye. Jing Yanwu squinted his eyes and glanced at them. He shook his head. There are so many people in Gale Branch. He saw more than 30 people surrounding him tightly. Each of them was a master with a high cultivation level. Their strength was far beyond what he knew. "Who are you?" Hu Ye shouted. "Jing Yanwu. Are you really Senior Jing Yanwu?" Hu Ye was in disbelief. They had never seen Jing Yanwu before, but they felt that a person over 100 years old would, at least, have white hair and a youthful complexion. How could he look like a middle-aged man? Moreover, his appearance did not look similar to Zheng Tianhe. More importantly, he did not have the appearance of a grandmaster. He looked like an ordinary person. It was as if a passerby had said that he was a hidden master for hundreds of years. It was ridiculous. Jing Yanwu said lightly, "Every debt has its debtor. I'm looking for your branch leader, Zhao Dave." "Senior Jing, you came at a bad time." Hu Ye fist saluted. "Branch leader just left last night. I heard that he's cultivating a secret skill to deal with Senior Jing. He'll only be back tonight. If Senior Jing wants to meet branch leader, please wait. Don't tell me he ran away." Jing Yanwu frowned at him. Hu Ye shook his head. "Senior Jing, don't worry. Branch leader dares to take responsibility for his actions. He won't run away. Senior Jing, why don't you wait for a day? You'll see branch leader tonight. Even if branch leader doesn't show up, we're still here. What's the point of killing you?" Jing Yanwu said lightly. In his eyes, they were not even worth mentioning. They were not worth killing. Moreover, he was afraid of Great Light Peak. No matter how powerful he was, he had no chance of winning against Great Light Peak's revenge. He only wanted to kill Zhao Dave to avenge his son's death. His personal grudge had nothing to do with the conflict between the sections. Great Light Peak had nothing to say. "Then I'll send you off, Senior Jing." Hu Ye fist saluted. Jing Yanwu said lightly, "I'll come back tonight. Tell Zhao Dave to wash his neck and not run away." "Yes," Hu Ye said. Jing Yanwu laughed coldly. He turned around and appeared at the corner of the street in the next moment. Then, he disappeared again. Everyone looked at his incredibly fast body movement technique with grave expressions and different thoughts running through their mind. He was in a small residence not far from the Roaring Tiger clan. He was quietly practicing the 36 energy nurturing forms. After a few rounds, he sat down to regulate his breathing. Then, he stood up to practice the 36 energy nurturing forms again and again. The situation in Gale Branch was clearly reflected in his mind. He ignored it and focused on practicing his 36 energy nurturing forms. Jing Yanwu left Gale Branch and returned to the Roaring Tiger clan. The Roaring Tiger clan had lost its backbone. The two masters who had stayed behind had pacified the crowd and managed to keep the clan together. However, their spirit had dissipated. Their bones and tendons had been removed by Chuli. They were no longer the #1 clan in Gale City. The two escorted Jing Yanwu into the Roaring Tiger clan and reported to Jing Yanwu alone. Jing Yanwu looked calm and slow. He did not seem angry at all. After listening to the two's detailed report, he did not comment. In the end, He only asked indifferently if Jing Tianhe was killed by Zhao Dai. As for the rest, he did not ask much. He did not ask why the fight had broken out or why he had killed Jing Tianhe. He closed his eyes and sent the two away. Then, he walked around the courtyard where Jing Tianhe used to live. His expression became gloomier. Jing Tianhe's voice and smile when he was young flashed in his mind. He had a son at such an old age and was doted on like a grandson. He had received endless joy. Whenever he thought about being separated forever, his heart ached. Therefore, regardless of the rule of not stepping into the martial arts world before 100 years old, he had to kill Zhao Dai before he could face Jing Tianhe again. After a while, he calmed himself down and began to cultivate. He was confident that he could kill Zhao Dai, but he did not want to fail miserably. He had to do his best no matter what. Zhao Dai was a rising star in the Holy Church of Light. The Holy Church of Light cherished the disciples who entered the Great Light Peak and would not allow any of them to be hurt. Therefore, they would definitely send help. His heart sank when he thought about this. Fortunately, the Holy Church of Light would not send a 100-year-old master. He had a high chance of killing Zhao Dai. Even if there was someone protecting him, he must kill Zhao Dai. Whoever tried to stop him would be the murderer of his son. He would not be able to live under the same sky as him, and he must kill them. Chu Li sat on the bed and calmed himself down. He slowly dispersed his murderous intent and calmed himself down. He rested and built up his energy for the big battle at night. Chapter 3784. At first, he was eager to learn Jing Tianhe's White Tiger Power's level was too low. Jing Yanwu was a 100-year-old hidden master, so his White Tiger Power's level must be very high. If he could learn it, it would be enough for him to cultivate temporarily. In the future, he would look for an opportunity to obtain all the heart techniques of White Tiger Power. If he was lucky, Jing Yanwu's White Tiger Power could be cultivated to the highest level, which would save him a lot of effort. He did not accept the challenge immediately because he wanted to watch Jing Yanwu cultivate White Tiger Power. Otherwise, he would not have the chance to learn it if they fought. However, when Jing Yanwu arrived at the Roaring Tiger Clan, he did not cultivate the White Tiger Power for a long time. Instead, he merely adjusted his breathing and recuperated so that he could deal with the big battle at night. Chu Li was very disappointed, but there was nothing he could do. After all, he could not force Jing Yanwu to cultivate the White Tiger Power. He could only wait helplessly. Time passed slowly. Chu Li had been honing his single slice of the universe the entire morning. He kept compressing and honing it so that all the blade energy of the single slice of the universe in his dantian was condensed into one blade. This was very exhausting. In the past, he could release more than 20 blades when he filled his dantian with the blade energy of the single slice of the universe. Now, he had to compress all 20 blades into one, which required 10 times more energy than before. This blade would cause great damage to his meridians. Once he released it, he would not have the energy to release a second blade. With his current cultivation level, there was only one way to defeat Jing Yanwu without restoring his Chu Li's body. There was only one chance for him to use one blade. From noon to afternoon, Jing Yanwu sat motionlessly on the bed like a statue. Even when the people from the Roaring Tiger Clan brought him food, he did not touch it and only sat on the bed to meditate. Chu Li nodded to himself at his calm temperament. It was too difficult for a martial artist not to cultivate inner energy and just sit still to calm his mind and spirit. Most martial artists liked to move and hated to stay still. When one was full of vigor, one's spirit would be overflowing and they would always want to move. Chu Li was able to do this because of his profound meditation skills. In the middle of the afternoon, when he saw that Jing Yanwu still had no intention of cultivating White Tiger Power, he knew he could not count on him. He glided to a residence where Li Ruolin and Lu Jin were chatting in the courtyard. Jing Yanwu has arrived? Li Ruolin asked. Chu Li nodded and sat in the gazebo. Senior Sister Li, Senior Sister Lu, you should go. Li Ruolin frowned as she looked at him. Lu Jin asked, You don't need our help? Chu Li shook his head. You won't be of much help. Instead, you'll be a burden to me. Junior brother Zhao, what nonsense are you spouting? Li Ruolin said snappily, You're not confident that you can defeat Jing Yanwu either. Are you trying to send us away? Chu Li said, He has 100 years' worth of inner power. Think about it, even a mediocre cultivator with 100 years' worth of inner power would be astounding. Moreover, Jing Yanwu is a genius. You're just courting death by being in front of him. Even if we can't defeat him, we still have to try. It's good to distract him a little, Li Ruolin said. Junior brother Zhao, it'll make it easier for you to use your light blade. The only way to kill Jing Yanwu was to use the light blade. Chu Li shook his head. The martial arts of the White Tiger sect aren't afraid of being besieged. It doesn't matter if you're here or not. All right. Li Ruolin nodded slowly. Are you confident that we won't help you? Yes. Chu Li nodded. Li Ruolin pursed her red lips. Lu Jin asked, What method are you going to use? It's a sneak attack, Chu Li said. One-hit kill. Lu Jin shook her head and smiled. Li Ruolin said snappily, Don't you know that grandmasters aren't afraid of sneak attacks? They can sense danger and still sneak an attack. Chu Li said, I'll give it a try. He frowned at the two women and said helplessly, You're really no match for him. You're courting death if you fight him. He could see the two women's thoughts. They had no intention of leaving and were determined to lend him a hand. If he did not agree, they would fight Jing Yanwu first to wear him down so that he would have less energy to attack. So be it, Li Ruolin said calmly. We owe you our lives anyway. It's a good time to return the favor. Chu Li looked at her and then at Lu Jin. Lu Jin said, Junior brother Zhao, you don't have to persuade us anymore. We won't leave. Sigh. Chu Li shook his head helplessly. You two are really stupid. You're courting death. He must be very fast. You won't be able to keep up with him. You'll be hit by his palm before you can even react. Isn't this courting death? You're exaggerating, Li Ruolin said. Let's use our secret skills. Junior brother Zhao, instead of thinking about how to chase us away, why don't you think about how to cooperate and fight or kill Jing Yanwu? Lu Jin frowned and looked at Chu Li. She looked obedient but she was hot-tempered. She was clearly impatient. Chu Li said helplessly, All right, you guys attack first. I'll hide to the side and avoid him. Otherwise, he'll kill the three of us with one White Tiger killing skill. I can distract him if I'm not in front of him. That's a good idea. Lu Jin nodded. We'll take the lead. You watch the situation and leave if it doesn't look good. He wants to kill you anyway, not us. Chu Li shook his head. Don't think that way. He'll kill you. He knew what Jing Yanwu was thinking. He would kill anyone who stood in his way. He had gone crazy to avenge his son. He sighed. It's decided then. You guys attack. I'll hide in the dark and look for an opportunity to kill him. Okay. The two women agreed. The setting sun shone and the Radiance clan seemed to be covered in a layer of blood. Chu Li and the two women arrived at the Radiance clan and gathered all the Radiance clan disciples. Hu Yo and more than 30 martial arts masters appeared in front of the main hall. They looked at Chu Li, Li Ruolin, and Lu Jin who were standing on the steps. Chu Li glanced at the crowd and said, I've gathered everyone here today to introduce my two senior sisters, Li Ruolin and Lu Jin. He pointed at the two women. Jing Yanwu is here. He'll come looking for me soon. As disciples of Gale Branch, are you going to look for trouble with me, the branch leader? Everyone looked at him in confusion. Chu Li said, The next time Jing Yanwu comes, we'll attack him together and get rid of him. No matter how powerful a martial arts master is, he's not allowed to come to Gale Branch and cause trouble. Yes. Hu Ye and the others responded listlessly. Chu Li said, "Don't be afraid of Jing Yanwu. Don't worry and fight. Even if you're killed by him, I can save you." He took out 2 jade bottles and tossed them to Hu Ye. "These are our light pills. Even if you die, you can be saved as long as you don't die for more than 2 hours." Everyone immediately became spirited and looked at Hu Ye. Hu Ye opened one of the jade bottles and poured out a snow-white pill. Under the setting sun, it seemed to be dyed red by the setting sun. It was crystal clear and warm. Chu Li said, "Hu Ye, you know your stuff, right? It's the light pill." Hu Ye nodded. He looked at Chu Li in shock. "Branch leader, are you really giving it to us?" "Of course," Chu Li said proudly. "As a branch leader, I don't have much, but I have spirit pills. As long as everyone works hard, I guarantee that I won't mistreat you. If you manage to kill Jing Yanwu this time, I'll give each of you 2 light pills." "Thank you, branch leader," everyone responded. The light pill was a famous spirit pill in the martial arts world. 1 pill could save one's life. They did not expect the branch leader to be so generous. Chu Li said in a low voice, "Anyone who deserts before the battle will be killed without mercy." "Yes," everyone answered loudly. "Zhao Dai!" A shout came from outside. Jing Yanwu was already outside. Chapter 3785. Hu Ye hurriedly said, "Everyone's spirit pills." Chu Li said, "Everyone, swallow this so that you won't need to use it later. Don't be reluctant, give me another 2 pills later." When Hu Ye heard this, he immediately poured out the radiant pellets from the jade bottle and stuffed them into their mouth. He did not let them take it and only asked them to open their mouth. Everyone could only open their mouth. Originally, there were some people who pretended to swallow it, but actually hid it in their teeth. If they could use it later, they would swallow it immediately. If they couldn't use it, they would spit it out. In any case, it was for themselves to eat, and they wouldn't find it dirty. Unfortunately, their wishful thinking did not come to fruition. As soon as the radiant pill entered their mouths, it was stained with their saliva and immediately turned into a stream of clear energy that seeped into their internal organs. Their internal organs were surrounded by this clear energy, which was indescribably comfortable. Their spirits were immediately roused, and their eyes shone brightly. They wished they could go up and fight with their lives on the line. With this, he really wasn't afraid of death. In any case, there were spirit pills to protect his life. Moreover, if he performed well, the branch leader would definitely reward him handsomely. Chu Li smiled at the 2 women as he watched the crowd walk out valiantly. Men die in pursuit of wealth, and birds die in pursuit of food. If there is a great reward, there will always be brave men. This is human nature, and even grandmasters are not immune. Jing Yanwu stood on the empty ground outside Gale Branch and looked coldly at the people who had come out. "Where's Zhao Dai?" "The branch master is not here." Hu Ye cupped his fists and said, "Senior Jing, the branch master is busy and is not here. Why don't Senior Jing wait a little longer?" "Humph, he's inside." Jing Yanwu snorted. "The branch master really isn't here. However, if you want to make a move against the branch master, you'll have to get past us first. Senior Jing, sorry for the offense." Hu Ye cupped his fists and said solemnly. He sighed inwardly. The branch leader was indeed the branch leader. His methods were powerful. With such a great reward, he could not afford to be hesitant. Everyone had been captured by the light pill and had completely submitted to Zhao Dai. He could only go with the flow. It was impossible for him to return to the Roaring Tiger clan. Of all the experts in Roaring Tiger Hall, he was the only one who had seen the light pill. The others did not have the chance to obtain it at all. Now that everyone had eaten one, there would be 2 more after that, which was equivalent to having 2 more lives. Which Grandmaster could refuse? Grandmasters were even more afraid of death. For the sake of the illumination elixir, everyone would do their best to protect Zhao Dai. Moreover, He had already consumed the illumination elixir, and was not afraid of death. "That's right, they've passed our test," everyone shouted in unison. They surrounded Jing Yanwu. Jing Yanwu glanced at them coldly and said disdainfully, "With just you guys? We have enough." "Hu Ye shouted, "Everyone, don't be polite, let's attack together. Go!" The crowd shouted. Immediately, a group of people attacked at the same time. Most of them were originally experts of the Roaring Tiger clan, and they had great teamwork. They exchanged blows and formed an airtight attack. Jing Yanwu sneered and suddenly clasped his hands together. A vivid and lifelike tiger condensed. It was as solid as a real tiger, but it was only the size of a fist. It was as if the tiger had shrunk several times. Woo! The small tiger let out a deafening roar, and then dove into the crowd. Ah ah ah! Screams rang out one after another. No one could escape from the tiger's jaws, and they were all sent flying. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 people were sent flying out of the encirclement. Jing Yanwu sneered and clasped his hands together. Another ferocious tiger shadow leaped into the crowd like a tiger in a flock of sheep. The experts of Gale Branch could not withstand a single blow from him. More than a dozen of them were sent flying. In the blink of an eye, there was no one left standing beside him. Even Hu Ye, who was the strongest in martial arts, was sent flying. He had held back a bit of his strength to avoid being killed, but he was also shocked by Jing Yanwu's strength. Even if he used his full strength, he would still be sent flying when he faced the tiger's shadow head-on. In fact, he was even more seriously injured. He was injured by the attack, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. "Jing Yanwu, how dare you?" Li Rulan fluttered out and said coldly, "This is Gale Branch, not Radiance Clan. You've reached the end of your life." Although the Holy Church of Light wanted to pursue the matter when the Radiance Clan was destroyed, they could not do so in the end. However, it was different for Gale Branch. It was a true subordinate of the Holy Church of Light, and attacking Gale Branch was equivalent to attacking the Holy Church of Light. So what if it's Gale Branch?" Jing Yanwu sneered. "I don't care if it's Radiance Clan or Gale Branch, I only want to kill Zhao Dave." "You'll have to kill me first if you want to kill junior brother Zhao," Li Rulan scoffed. Lu Zhen did not bother to talk to him. She immediately stepped forward and threw a punch. It was the divine light fist. She was so delicate and delicate. Her figure was so thin that it seemed like a gust of wind could blow her away. However, her punch was full of power. Jing Yanwu put his hands together and condensed a tiger silhouette again. Then, it shot toward Lu Zhen. The tiger silhouette met Lu Zhen's punch and shot toward her chest. It was so fast that Lu Zhen could not react in time. She could only watch helplessly as she was sent flying. Bang! Lu Zhen was sent flying. While she was in midair, her strong unwillingness to accept defeat forced her to throw another punch. Then, she spat out a mouthful of blood and crashed into the stone lion. After she landed on the ground, she became listless like a withered flower. Li Rulan's expression changed. "Senior Sister Lu." Lu Zhen fell under the stone lion and yelled, "Be careful, use your secret skill." Li Rulan did not hesitate to activate the Divine Light's secret skill. She shouted and threw a punch at Jing Yanwu. Jing Yanwu shook his head and sighed. "You're just courting death. I'll fulfill your wish." Jing Yanwu sneered. He put his hands together and another tiger silhouette shot toward Li Rulan. Li Rulan dodged the tiger silhouette. However, the tiger silhouette suddenly split into two. This time, it was too late for Li Rulan to dodge. She could only watch helplessly as she was sent flying. She helplessly looked in the direction of the gate. She did not expect herself to be so useless. Junior brother was right. They were so weak in front of Jing Yanwu. They were just courting death. However, if she and senior sister Lu were like this with their cultivation levels, Zhao Dai would be even worse. She was slightly worried when she thought about this. If Jing Yanwu barged in, Zhao Dai's life would be in danger. Her only hope was to be quick-witted and escape in advance to avoid being caught by Jing Yanwu. Bang! Li Ruolan's graceful body crashed into the stone lion and slid to Lu Xun's side. It seems like we're really a burden. Lu Xun lowered her head and sighed. The two of them were like children facing adults in front of Jing Yanwu. They could not fight back at all, which made her feel extremely hopeless and depressed. Li Ruolan said, "This is the best we can do. It's all up to junior brother Zhao now." Zhao Dai. Jing Yanwu suddenly extended his hand. Lu Xun, who was sitting on the stone lion, flew up and shot toward Jing Yanwu. Jing Yanwu flipped his palm and hit Lu Xun's chest. Lu Xun was sent flying again. She spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. She slid down after crashing into the stone lion, and became even more dispirited. Her injuries had already barely healed. Now that she was injured again and her vitality was greatly damaged, it was extremely bad. Jing Yanwu shouted, "Zhao Dai, if you don't come out, I'll kill these two women." The surroundings were silent. Chu Li did not make a move. Hu Ye and the others had consumed the light pill in advance. Even though they were heavily injured, they were not as severely injured. They were still very energetic. Hu Ye frowned as he looked at the gate. Did branch leader Zhao Dai really escape? "I'll count to 3. If he doesn't come out, I'll kill her," Jing Yanwu shouted. Chu Li still did not make a move. He was standing outside the basilica that was separated by a wall and observing Jing Yanwu's movements. He was using the nature restoration manifestation and the omniscient mirror at the same time to look for Jing Yanwu's flaws that could allow him to kill Jing Yanwu in one hit. Before he was confident that he could kill Jing Yanwu in one hit, he could only hold back. Otherwise, he would be courting death if he went out. He only had one chance and one slash. If he could not kill Jing Yanwu, he could only run for his life. 1, 2. Chapter 3786. Let her go. Hu Ye roared and charged at Jing Yanwu with all his remaining strength. The other master also charged at him with all his might. They would never allow these two beauties to die in front of them. Otherwise, they would not be fit to be called men. Humph! Jing Yanwu sneered and pushed his palms forward. His palm energy hit the two men from afar. Bam bam! The two men were sent flying hundreds of feet away. It was as if they were being pulled by strings. Not only did the two men's fate not scare the crowd away, but it also aroused their courage. They charged at Jing Yanwu with their wounded bodies, fearless and courageous. The two women looked at the crowd in surprise. They did not expect this motley crew of Roaring Tiger Clan's masters to be so brave. The double stimulation of the light pill reward and the beautiful women made their blood boil. They were fearless and showed their courage. All men's actions were for the sake of women. With such beautiful women in front of them, they became hot-blooded young men. Jing Yanwu's palms were not enough, so he used the same trick again. He put his palms together and formed a fierce tiger shadow. It pounced at the crowd like a miniature tiger. Bam 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 bam! The crowd was scattered everywhere. Some went east, some went west, some went south, and some went north. They flew in all directions and formed a semicircle. Jing Yanwu sneered and looked at the crowd. Then, he extended his palms toward the two women again. Li Ruolan and Lu Xun pursed their red lips and stared at him stubbornly. They wanted to move but were powerless. They could only watch as his palms fell on them. Ah! Hu Ye charged at him again. You're courting death. Jing Yanwu's face darkened. He turned around and attacked with his palm energy like a huge wave. Hu Ye flew into the air and was hit by the huge wave of palm energy. He was sent flying again. TSS. A cold light flashed and the sound of silk ripping made everyone's body go numb. Jing Yanwu's expression changed and he looked down at his chest. He knew that Zhao Dai's light blade was a huge threat. It was much more powerful than his cultivation level and could even threaten him. That was why he had put on his treasured armor in advance, so that he would not be afraid of the light blade. However, he did not expect the treasured armor to be useless and the blade to pierce through it. The power of Chu Li's condensed blade was peerless. It broke through the treasured armor without any obstruction and pierced through the body. Jing Yanwu turned around and left, disappearing in a flash like a shadow. Chu Li stood quietly at the main entrance, coldly looking in the direction where Jing Yanwu disappeared. Everyone was shocked and then cheered. They all saw the saber flash by, but it pierced through Jing Yanwu. Chu Li slowly walked towards the two women and smiled. "Senior sisters, you almost lost your life, didn't you?" Li Ruolan said angrily, "Hurry up and help us in." Chu Li helped the two women up with each hand and slowly walked through the main door. He ignored the people from Gale Branch and their moans and screams. After a while, Chu Li came out again and tossed 4 jade bottles to Huya. 2 for each of you. 3 for those who perform well and 4 for you. Many thanks, branch leader. Huya received the jade bottle in a flurry. He was overjoyed. Chu Li raised his voice and shouted, "I still have more light pills. Let's see if you're capable enough to take them." "Yes." Everyone answered loudly. Such a generous reward made them so excited that their injuries seemed to have lightened. Chu Li returned to the hall and came to a small courtyard. The two women lay side by side on the bed. Their faces were pale and lifeless. He sat in front of their bed and frowned at them. Damn Jing Yanwu, what an insidious palm energy! The palm energy that the two women suffered could restrain the light pill. The palm energy dissolved the light pill's medicinal effect, causing their injuries to worsen. If this continued, they would die in less than an hour. This must be the white tiger sect's most insidious white tiger soul-devouring technique. Li Ruolan lay on her back on the bed. Her chest rose and fell violently as she panted. "The light pill is useless. If you want to save us, your inner energy must be purer and deeper than his. So there's no hope." Chu Li scoffed. "You'll definitely die. So be it. We'll die sooner or later." Lu Jin lay in Li Ruolan's arms. Her delicate and gentle face was calm. "It's a pity that we can't enter the light realm. Jing Yanwu purposely prevented us from entering the light realm." "What an insidious fellow," Li Ruolan said. "You must be careful of him. He might not be careless next time." The blade earlier was breathtaking but could not be replicated. With so many people distracting Jing Yanwu, Zhao Dai had the chance to shoot that blade. Jing Yanwu would not be so careless next time. Chu Li said, "I'll save you first." As he spoke, he took out a jade bottle and poured out 4 light pills. Then, he stuffed 2 pills into their mouth. After Li Ruolan opened her mouth and swallowed the pills, she shook her head and said, "We're just stalling for time. These 2 light pills can only buy us an hour." "Junior brother, did you refine these light pills?" Lu Jin asked. "Refining light pills is a piece of cake as long as we have enough spirit herbs. Take 2 pills in an hour. We have plenty of light pills. If we can last until we return to the Great Light Peak, the saint can save you." "All right." Li Ruolan nodded. They believed that the saint had a way to break the white tiger soul-devouring technique. However, after a while, Chu Li's face turned gloomy. The white tiger soul-devouring technique instantly devoured the medicinal effects of the 2 light pills and turned them into his own energy. The two women's injuries worsened. The light pills were useless now. In the blink of an eye, the two women's injuries worsened and worsened rapidly. Their green aura became thicker and they were about to die. They felt their vision turning black and were about to be devoured by the darkness. Their bodies turned cold. Li Ruolan tried her best to open her eyes. Her originally bright eyes had become dull. "Junior brother, if I die, cut off a strand of my hair and give it to senior brother Ji." Chu Li said, "Senior sister Li, why are you so worried? He's already gone." "That's true." Li Ruolan sighed. "It's good for him to forget about me." Lu Jin forced a smile. "Junior sister, you're very affectionate." Chu Li's expression changed. He looked deeply at the two women. He watched as their vitality slowly dissipated from their graceful bodies and was gradually devoured by the darkness and coldness. In the end, he sighed and bent down to press on their breasts. You! Li Ruolin and Lu Jin widened their eyes and stared at him in disbelief. Chu Li closed his eyes and ignored them. The two women struggled to pry his large hands away, but they felt a cool force entering their chests. The White Tiger Soul Devouring Technique's inner energy was like a wolf that saw a lamb. It pounced on this force. In a flash, the White Tiger Soul Devouring Technique's inner energy entered Chu Li's body through his palm. After a few revolutions of the cloud's slashing power, it assimilated the inner energy and disappeared without a trace. Li Ruolin was right. A purer inner energy was needed to overcome the White Tiger Soul Devouring Technique. The cloud slashing power was indeed useful. Chu Li's palms continued to press on their chests. The spiritual energy surged into their chests and their spirits were lifted. Chu Li stopped and stuffed a light pill into their mouth. The pill's energy instantly turned into a cool force and their vitality was restored. The two women opened their eyes and looked at him in confusion. Chu Li said, "The Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture is mysterious, right?" As expected of the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture, Li Ruolin nodded lightly. Lu Jin said, "Junior brother Zhao, you saved our lives again." "We're even," Chu Li said. Chapter 3787. Senior Sisters, rest well and recuperate. I'll go after Jing Yanwu. Chu Li said. "Don't go." Li Ruolin frowned. "You're no match for him even if he's injured." Chu Li smiled. "The blade force of my blade is similar to the White Tiger Soul Devouring Technique. His injuries will only worsen. It won't be that easy to heal. His inner energy is more profound. He's able to break through your saber force," Li Ruolin said. "If the White Tiger Soul Devouring art could be broken by a purer inner energy, then so could Zhao Dai's saber force." Chu Li said, "It's not that easy. He'll be a scourge if he's left alive. We were lucky to be able to injure him this time, but what about next time? Are you going to stay here forever?" Li Ruolin furrowed her curved eyebrows. "It's impossible for us to stay even if we want to. We don't have enough manpower in the church, so we need to be on standby at all times." Lu Jin chuckled. "We're all busy, but we can't compare to you, junior brother Zhao." Chu Li scoffed. "I'm willing to work hard, but the saint won't let me." "All right." Li Ruolin interrupted his grumbling. If the saint heard him, he would be in deep trouble. "All right, I'm leaving now." Chu Li waved his hand and ignored Li Ruolin's greeting as he strode away. He left the Gale branch and headed northeast. Jing Yanwu felt his inner force gushing out of his wound at a speed faster than his blood. Although he was shocked, he did not lose his composure. He knew that he was in a life-and-death situation. He had to find a place to recuperate and heal his wounds as soon as possible before coming out to settle the score with Zhao Dai. As he used his light body technique, the rate at which his inner energy was drained increased. Half of his inner energy had already been drained the moment he left Gale City. At this rate, he would run out of inner energy not too far away from the city. Once he ran out of inner energy, he would not be able to heal himself and his condition would only worsen. He pondered for a moment and realized that the most dangerous place might actually be the safest. In terms of the depth of their foundation in Gale City, the Holy Church of Light was far inferior to the White Tiger sect. He immediately returned to Gale City and entered a small alley. Then, he entered an ordinary family's house. There was an old man living in this family. His eyebrows and beard were all white and he was senile. There was no one else in the family. He was a widower. The old man was currently lying in an old rocking chair in the courtyard, bathing in the sunset as he rocked back and forth leisurely. He was even humming a tune leisurely and enjoying himself. "Old song." Jing Yanwu landed in his courtyard and said in a low voice. The old man quickly got up. When he saw Jing Yanwu, he was shocked. He quickly cupped his fists and said in pleasant surprise, "Young master." Jing Yanwu covered the wound with one hand and waved his other hand. "I'm injured. I need to heal myself immediately. Don't let anyone find out." "Don't worry, young master. This place is very secretive." Elder Song quickly nodded and asked with concern, "Are your injuries serious?" "I won't die for now." Jing Yanwu snorted. Old Song asked, "What should we prepare?" "Find a secret place. I want to go into seclusion to heal my injuries." Jing Yanwu said, "Follow me, young master." Old Song brought him to a pagoda in the backyard and activated a mechanism in the pagoda. With a rumbling sound, the pagoda's steps shrank inwards, revealing a dark hole. Jing Yanwu followed Old Song into the secret underground chamber. Below was an empty stone room. There was food and water stored, so there was no need to go down every day. The air in the stone room was clear and fresh. The vent was located in a flower bed, so there was a faint fragrance in the air. "Young master, feel free to heal yourself here. Do you want me to deliver a letter?" Old Song asked. Jing Yanwu shook his head. "Don't do anything lest you arouse suspicion. I'll get back at you after I recover." "Yes, young master." Old Song nodded. Jing Yanwu covered his wound and sized him up. "It's been so many years. You've aged a lot." Old Song smiled and said, "Young master, you look younger and younger." "I look young on the outside, but my heart is old. This time, I lost my son at my old age. I want to avenge my son, but I didn't expect my enemy to be so troublesome." Jing Yanwu shook his head and sighed. "Go." "Yes." Old Song cupped his fists, went up the secret chamber, and entered the pagoda. With a rumbling sound, the stairs extended out again, covering the hole and returning to its original state. Outsiders could not discover the secret chamber. Old Song continued to sit on the deck chair in the front yard. As he bathed in the sunset, the past came to his mind. Back then, he followed his young master to explore the martial arts world. After surviving through a storm of swords and blades, his martial arts were crippled. In the end, he settled down in Gale City and became a wealthy man. He lived in peace for so many years. In the blink of an eye, he had not seen his young master for 50 years. His young master was the same as before, but he had aged. He had always been content with what he had. He felt that it was good enough to be alive. After experiencing bloodshed, it was a blessing to be alive. However, when he saw his young master again, he suddenly felt a little unwilling. Was he really going to spend his entire life in such a plain and quiet way, and gradually become one? Was he going to walk the earth for nothing? His ambition that had been worn down by his peaceful life and his fighting spirit that had been extinguished by losing his martial arts began to recover. He started to circulate the heart technique that he had not practiced for a long time. However, his dried meridians were no longer breathing. He sighed dejectedly. Feeling vexed, he pulled open the courtyard door and walked out. Slowly, strolling away? He walked slowly to the 9-star tower. As soon as he entered the 9-star tower, he heard about the battle at Gale Branch. Good fella, this Jing Yanwu is indeed a hidden master. All the masters of Gale Branch charged at him, but he only used one move and everyone was sent flying. Then, Jing Yanwu injured 2 female disciples of the Holy Church of Light. They were both beauties. He forced Zhao Dai to show himself, or else he would kill the 2 beauties. The disciples of Gale Branch charged at him with no regard for their lives to save the 2 beauties. Coincidentally, there was a flash of a blade. Zhao Dai finally made his move. The light blade pierced through Jing Yanwu. Is Zhao Dai's light blade really that powerful? My brother-in-law is a disciple of Gale Branch. He's recuperating at home. I just went to visit him with some snacks. This is what I heard from him. I saw it with my own eyes. It's inevitable that it's a little exaggerated. It's not exaggerated at all. It was just one move. Moreover, Jing Yanwu is really powerful. There were more than 30 top-notch masters in Gale Branch, but he took care of them in one move. Elder Song sat at a table and listened to the discussions without changing his expression. He soon understood the cause and effect. He sighed to himself that the martial arts world was indeed dangerous. There would always be someone stronger than the strong. Who would have thought that the young master was so powerful, but he was defeated by such a young Zhao Dai. However, it was exciting to be in such a martial arts world. Unfortunately, his lifespan was coming to an end. If he could recover his cultivation level, he could live for another 100 years or even 200 years. The older one was, the more he was afraid of death. The more he did not want to die, the more he was unwilling to die. If he could recover his martial arts and live for another 100 years, he was willing to pay any price. He drank a few glasses of wine, but his mouth was tasteless. He slowly walked down the 9-star tower and headed back to his house with a heart full of worries. As soon as he entered the narrow alley, he saw an ugly young man in a green robe standing in the middle of the narrow alley. Elder Song was on guard, but he continued to approach the young man as if nothing had happened. The two of them approached each other and finally passed each other. Elder Song sighed in relief. He maintained his original speed and slowly walked away from the young man. "Do you want to recover your martial arts?" the ugly young man asked as if he was talking to the air. Elder Song paused and continued walking forward. The ugly young man continued, "I have one of the Holy Church of Light's miracle cure pills." Chapter 3788. Wait! Elder Song turned his head. The ugly young man paused for a moment before continuing to walk. Elder Song asked, "Who are you?" "Zhao Dai." The ugly young man waved his hand and continued to walk further away from him. Elder Song asked, "What's your condition?" Chuli stopped and turned his head. "White tiger power." Elder Song sighed in relief. Fortunately, he was not going against Master. Then, he became cautious. Why did he want the white tiger power from him? It was obvious that he knew about his relationship with Master. Chuli said, "Don't worry, I'm not asking you to fight Jing Yanwu." Elder Song finally concluded that he knew Master was hiding in his house. Chuli said, "I want the complete white tiger power. If you can get it, I'll exchange it with the miracle cure pill." "How do I know you're not lying to me?" Elder Song said. His heart was racing. Of course, he knew about the miracle cure pill. It was a unique medicine from the Holy Church of Light that could restore martial arts. It was impossible for an ordinary disciple to obtain it. Zhao Dai was a genius among geniuses. He was nurtured and protected by the Holy Church of Light. It was not surprising that he had the miracle cure pill. If he could consume the miracle cure pill, he could recover his martial arts that had been crippled for many years. His lifespan would be extended to 200 years or even 300 years. It was an irresistible temptation for someone like him who only had a few years left to live. Chuli said, "I, Zhao Dai, will never break a promise. You can ask around about me. Besides, it's just a miracle cure pill. It's not a big deal." "You'll kill me," Elder Song said. Chuli glanced at him and said coldly, "Why would I? Will the White Tiger sect forgive me if I don't secretly learn the White Tiger power? What can the White Tiger sect do to me if I secretly learn the White Tiger power? You'll be the one to leak it, right?" Elder Song was speechless and slowly nodded. Although Master would be punished by the sect for leaving the mountain without permission and breaking the rule that century-old masters were not allowed to roam the martial arts world, the sect would not let it go if Zhao Dai killed Master. They would definitely take revenge. Then, he realized that Master was not dead, but he had already treated Master as a dead man. "Do you have the complete White Tiger power technique?" Chuli asked. "Yes," Elder Song said. Chu looked at him deeply and realized that Elder Song was not lying. He did have the complete white tiger power technique. Do you want to trade? Chu took out a jade bottle from his inner pocket and poured out a snow-white pill. A small knife as thin as a cicada's wing suddenly appeared between his fingers. With a gentle stroke, the pill was split into two. Chu tossed him half a pill. Take this. The other half must be consumed within a quarter of an hour so that the medicinal effects won't disperse. Old Song took it and stared at the half pill that was emitting a strange smell with a gloomy expression. Chu did not rush him. He just smiled at him. Elder Song was struggling internally. On one hand, he could not betray the White Tiger sect and expose the White Tiger power. On the other hand, he only had a few years to live, and the sect would not help him recover his martial arts. After a few breaths, his desire to survive overwhelmed everything else. He closed his eyes and swallowed the pill. Immediately, a wave of clear qi circled around his internal organs and rushed into his dantian. His dry meridians seemed to have regained their warmth, and his dantian also produced a faint heat. It was as if a seed was about to break out of the soil but could not. This feeling made him anxious and eager. Chu smiled. Is it true? Follow me, Elder Song said. Chu nodded in satisfaction. If you don't play tricks, I can give you the other half anytime. Don't worry, Elder Song said slowly. The two returned to his residence and went into the study. Elder Song took out a thick poetry book from the bookshelf and handed it to him. The incantation and the white tiger portrait are inside. My painting skills may be average, so I can't achieve both form and spirit. Chu quickly flipped through it. There were a total of 9 white tiger portraits, and almost 100 words of incantation. He was deep in thought. These 9 portraits were different from the sun-cultivating white tiger portrait, but there was a faint connection between them. These incantations were profound and difficult to understand, causing him to frown. Your martial arts inheritance uses the Enlightenment method, right? Chu asked. Yes. Elder Song nodded. The 9 portraits use the Enlightenment method. Practice it once for me to see, Chu said. Although Elder Song was curious as to why Chu wanted to watch him practice since he could not see anything in his mind, he did not disobey. 15 minutes passed quickly. The restless feeling in his dantian was getting weaker. If the medicine did not keep up, he would not be able to recover his martial art. At this point, his desire grew and he could not resist Chu-Li's request. Thus, he sat on the bed and began to channel. The 9 white tiger portraits appeared in his mind one by one. Chu-Li saw what he was thinking and nodded to himself. This Elder Song was really honest. He really passed the white tiger power to him and did not play tricks to harm him. It's done, Chu said. Elder Song opened his eyes with a complicated expression. Actually, it's useless even if you know the white tiger power. The incantation is difficult and the White Tiger sect has a large number of complicated cultivation notes. Without the cultivation notes of these senior masters, even if you get the incantation, you won't be able to understand it and cultivate it. Chu said, You don't have to worry about that. Come, this is the other half. He threw the remaining half of the pill to Elder Song. Elder Song hesitated for a moment and glanced at him before putting it into his mouth. He was also worried that Chu would play tricks in the pill. He was not a grandmaster now and did not have a sense of danger. Even if it was poisonous, he would not be able to detect it in advance. However, he had no other choice now. He could only bet on Chu-Li's character. A wave of fresh air entered his internal organs and gathered in his dantian. The originally restless force suddenly expanded like a seed breaking out of the ground. Traces of inner energy gathered in his dantian and became thicker and thicker. From an acquired master to an innate master, then to a grandmaster. Bang! His clothes fluttered even though there was no wind. His snow-white beard and eyebrows fluttered as if he was in a strong wind. Chu Li looked at him with a smile. Elder Song opened his eyes. They were so bright that it was almost tangible. Chu Li fist saluted. Congratulations! Elder Song fist saluted. He was inexplicably grateful. He did not expect Chu Li to keep his promise. Chu Li said, "Since we had a pleasant trade, I'll give you a word of advice." "Please say it." Elder Song said. Chu Li said, "Leave this place so that the White Tiger sect won't vent their anger on you. The world is so big, there's nowhere you can't go." Elder Song frowned at him. Chu Li said, "Because you were a cripple, the Holy Church's elders did not kill you." Elder Song shook his head. "I won't abandon young master. He's already dead." Chu Li fist saluted and glided away. He appeared in Gale Branch. When he arrived at the house of the two women, he saw a beautiful middle-aged woman treating the two women. The two women sat side by side on the bed, while the beautiful middle-aged woman sat behind them. She pressed her palm on each of their backs as white steam rose from her hair. Chu Li sat at the side and watched without disturbing them. After 10 minutes, the middle-aged woman withdrew her palms and opened her eyes to look at him. Chu Li fist saluted. This is Masters Junior Tsinghua." Li Ruolin opened her eyes. Chu Li said, "Masters Junior Tsing is here to help us, right?" Chapter 3789. Shao Qi walked beside him and said, "I didn't expect them to come to send us off." Chu Li smiled. "I'm popular." Shao Qi glared at him. "They're here to watch you, aren't they?" Chu Li shook his head and laughed. "The human heart is sinister, but not to this extent. Our journey won't be peaceful, and it's all thanks to Lady Shao Qi's protection." "Why don't you want the protectors to follow us?" Shao Qi frowned. "You're enough, Lady Shao Qi. I don't want anyone to disturb us." Shao Qi frowned even more and glared at him. "This isn't the time to fool around. Lady Shao Qi, you've been cultivating in isolation, but the regal sword scripture is a sword scripture. It needs to be honed in actual combat. Your progress has stagnated because of the lack of actual combat. This trip to the Imperial Mausoleum is your journey of cultivation. If you're not careful, you'll lose your life. That's why you can only move forward bravely. You can't retreat or avoid." "I hope you've made the right choice," Shao Qi said slowly. She seemed to have reached a bottleneck in the regal sword scripture, and it was useless no matter how much she cultivated. Chu Li's earlier words about how one could only forget their emotions helped her a little, but the lack of actual combat was indeed a big problem. She suddenly felt a warmth in her heart. At this time, he was still thinking about her and putting his life in her hands just to hone his cultivation. Chu Li glanced at her and smiled to himself. The two of them rode on the road. After passing through Qingyun town, there were fewer pedestrians on the road, as if they were the only two people left in the world. After traveling for half a day, they went into a post house to rest. Seeing that Chu Li looked normal and did not look tired, Shao Qi was secretly relieved. After being crippled of his martial arts, his body would become extremely weak, weaker than an ordinary person. If he continued to travel, he would easily fall sick. Shao Qi took out braised meat and dry food, as well as a few fruits, and placed them on the table. Chu Li first ate a fruit, then a few pieces of braised meat and dry food. He drank a few mouthfuls of water and sighed. "Soon, it won't be this peaceful anymore. You'll have to prepare for battle." Shao Qi chewed and swallowed a piece of dry food slowly and nodded. Chu Li pointed at the forest opposite. "There are 4 masters over there, and they're all swordsman masters." Shao Qi frowned at him. Chu Li smiled. "Although my martial arts have been crippled, my senses are still there." Shao Qi swallowed the dry food in her mouth and took a sip of water. After wiping her hands with a silk handkerchief, she flew up with her sword and flipped to the top of the gazebo. She shrunk her body and hid in the direction Chu Li pointed at. The 4 men in black stepped on the treetops and approached him. When they saw Chu Li sitting alone, they were overjoyed. They drew their swords and used the sun-piercing white rainbow to stab down from the sky. TSS, 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 TSS. Shao Qi appeared behind them and slashed their throats with a flash of her sword. She could also see through people's hearts and sense their killing intent. Naturally, she would not be polite. Purring, 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 purring. The 4 of them fell below the gazebo, unable to step into it. Their bodies twitched as they died. The sword chi of the Regal Sword Sutra instantly shattered their brains, and they couldn't be more dead. Chu Li clapped his hands and smiled. Lady Xiao Yi's sword technique is profound. I'm impressed. Shao Qi replied, It's very normal. Chu Li smiled. These 4 people's sword techniques are extraordinary. It's a pity that they were eager to kill me, but there will be more masters in the future. Shao Qi nodded slowly. You have to be careful too. Even if your martial arts are gone, you should still have your step technique, right? What about your divine power? Chu Li replied, I still have my divine power. God's limbs too? Yes. Shao Qi let out a long sigh of relief. If he had God's limbs, he could escape at any time, so she didn't have to worry. She then rolled her eyes at Chu Li. He made it sound so good that she thought he had entrusted everything to her. Now, it seemed like she was overthinking. Chu Li said, God's limbs can only reach places that I've been to before. I've never been to the Imperial Mausoleum, so I can't rely on my divine power to go there. I can only walk there and I'll need you to escort me. That's true. Shao Qi pondered and nodded. The 2 of them continued on their way. Along the way, there were assassinations from masters from time to time. Some fought alone, some in groups, and some in groups of 3 to 5. Chu Li exposed their tracks one by one so that Shao Qi could prepare in advance and kill them in one strike. Since Chu Li had God's limbs, Shao Qi could kill without restraint. After 3 days, more than 40 masters had died in Shao Qi's hands. Every day, more than 10 masters died under her sword. In a short period of time, her title as the Ruthless Fairy had spread. Her swordsmanship was unpredictable and unavoidable. Almost every time she attacked, someone would die. She was called the Ruthless Fairy because of her fairy-like temperament. She wore a white tunic and a white veil that covered her face. Her temperament was clear and aloof. Shao Qi's swordsmanship improved by leaps and bounds. She had been training hard in seclusion, and her understanding of swordsmanship was enough, but she lacked real sharpening. Moreover, she did not have many opportunities to fight since she was young. Even when she was adventuring in the martial arts world, because of her cold personality, she rarely caused trouble and did not have many fights. This time, when she escorted Chu Li and dealt with many assassinations, the intense battles in just 3 days were comparable to the battles in the past few years. Her original understanding of swordsmanship was gradually applied to swordsmanship, and her swordsmanship improved rapidly. Her original bottleneck was slowly loosened, and she was about to advance another level. Chu Li clearly saw her changes and was happy for her. He was strong enough now, so he was not afraid of Shao Qi's rapid advancement. He was confident that he could break through her inner state. That evening, the sunset illuminated the dense forest red. The 2 of them led the horses deep into the forest and tied the horses to a tree so that they could graze on the tender grass. The 2 of them chopped down 3 trees and sat on tree stumps to make a bonfire. The weather was cold and winter was coming soon. They sat next to the bonfire and roasted 2 pheasants. The golden oil dripped onto the firewood and gave off a rich aroma. Chu Li suddenly turned his head to look behind Shao Qi and sighed. Someone's coming. Shao Qi leaped up and went up to the treetop. Before she could move again, a white shadow shot in front of her. Ding 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 ding. Shao Qi's sword was like lightning, but a slender finger kept hitting the blade, making the sound of metal colliding. Shao Qi's sword could not break through the opponent's finger and was slightly inferior. The owner of the finger was a woman dressed in white with a white veil covering her face. Only a pair of almond-shaped eyes could be seen. She was graceful and charming. When she fought, it was as if she was dancing, and it was pleasing to the eye. "Miss Lu," Chu Li said. The woman in white paused and was almost pierced by Shao Qi's sword. She leaped in front of Chu Li. Shao Qi saw that the situation was not good and stood in front of her, afraid that she would hurt Chu Li. Chu Li smiled. "Lady Shao, Miss Lu, both of you should take a break," Lu Yurong said lightly. "Third Lady Shao, your martial arts did not improve. You are no match for me." Shao Qi said, "Not necessarily." "All right." Lu Yurong lightly struck out with her palm. The tip of Shao Qi's sword stabbed into her palm. Lu Yurong turned her wrist and rotated her finger. Like sweeping a bowstring, she deflected the tip of the sword and hit Shao Qi's chest. Bang! Shao Qi took a hit and swung her sword. Lu Yurong took a step to avoid it and hit Shao Qi's shoulder again. "Miss Lu," Chu Li said. Chapter 3790. Chu Li sighed. "Miss Lu, you're here to watch me play." "Of course." Lu Yurong chuckled. "I cultivated in isolation just to defeat you. You, on the other hand, crippled my martial arts so easily. How could I let go of such a good opportunity?" Chu Li said, "Are you happy now?" He could see that Lu Yurong's martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds. It seemed that not only him but Lu Yurong was also advancing quickly. Her cultivation of the Empyrean goddess is the most compatible with her physique. Her cultivation is twice the result with half the effort. The Empyrean goddess power is also a boast. As soon as she finished speaking, the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard from outside. 24 men in black appeared and surrounded the three of them. Lu Yurong frowned and glanced at them. Chu Li said, "Miss Lu, you didn't call them here, did you?" Lu Yurong scoffed, "So what if I did?" Chu Li knew that these people were not with Lu Yurong. Their movement technique was extremely fast, as if they had already determined their whereabouts. It seemed that there was a tracking master among them. Shao Qi looked at Lu Yurong. "Leave no one alive, kill them all," one of the men in black said. As soon as he finished speaking, a white shadow flashed and Shao Qi appeared in front of him. Her sword flashed and pierced through his throat. The man in black wanted to attack, but he felt pain in his throat. Boundless darkness surged and swallowed him. Shao Qi's movement technique was extremely fast. The power of the regal sword scripture was amazing. It was slightly weaker than Lu Yurong, but against the others, it was easy. Most of the others surrounded Shao Qi while a small group attacked Chu Li. Lu Yurong smiled at Chu Li. She did not plan to attack. Chu Li glanced at her helplessly. He took a step forward and dodged a sword. He then took another step and dodged another sword. It was as if he was taking a stroll in the park. He dodged a sword with every step he took. 6 people surrounded him, but none of them could touch him. Lu Yurong smiled. "Looks like your eyesight is still there." Suddenly, Shao Qi flashed and appeared behind Chu Li. She pierced one person's throat with her sword, and with a flash of her sword, she pierced another person's throat. She killed one person with each strike, and it was a clean and efficient move. However, there were more than 10 people surrounding her, so she had to kill them one by one. Chu Li said, "All right, Miss Lu, I owe you one." Lu Yurong chuckled. Her body turned into a blurry white shadow. The Empyrean fairy palm was like a butterfly flipping through flowers, light and graceful. Bang, 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 bang! Wherever the palm shadow passed, the 6 black-robed men let out muffled groans and were sent flying. When they landed on the ground, they lay there motionless, dead. Chu Li shook his head. Shao Qi frowned. Her sword was fast enough, but it was still slower than Lu Yurong. However, she was not impatient at all. Instead, she focused even more on her sword. Lu Yurong moved again. The Empyrean fairy palm fluttered like a butterfly. Her delicate and fair little hand looked like the palm of death to the men in black. They tried their best to dodge or even escape, but it was too late. Wherever the palm energy passed, people were sent flying and killed instantly. Shao Qi did not stop swinging her sword, and her movements became faster and faster. Her swordsmanship became more and more clean, simple and fast. In the end, her sword even circled 3 men's throats, twice as fast as before. It was not any slower than Lu Yurong's speed of killing. Lu Yurong could also see that Shao Qi's swordsmanship had improved by another level. She scoffed, "Chu Li, you have a good plan. You are using these assassins for Third Lady Shao to practice, aren't you? How devoted." Chu Li smiled, "Thank you, Miss Lu. If there's nothing else, please leave. Burn the bridge after crossing it." "But I really don't have anything else to do," Lu Yurong said lightly. "That's why I can accompany you and see how many assassins there are." "Forget it," Chu Li shook his head. Lu Yurong frowned slightly, her eyes became cold. Chu Li did not care. If the 2 women were to be together, even if one was smart and the other cold, they would still be enemies. They had been fighting for so many years, there would be chaos. He did not want to be involved. "All right, if you want to follow, then follow," Shao Qi said lightly. Chu Li looked at her. Shao Qi said, "Miss Lu will help." "Of course," Lu Yurong said with a smile. "If Chu Li is in danger, I will help." Chapter 3791. After killing all the assassins in the surroundings, the 3 of them could only find another place to settle down. In another part of the forest, there was a bonfire, and the 3 of them sat beside it. Both Lu Yurong and Shao Qi took off their white veils. One of them had a charming face while the other had a pure and beautiful face. Both of them were good at their own game, and it was hard to tell who was better. The surrounding air became much fresher. "King Ping has relinquished his military authority. I heard that you were the one who persuaded him." Lu Yurong tossed a piece of firewood into the room. She dusted her hands and looked at Chu Li with her almond-shaped eyes. Chu Li sat opposite her. "Who said that? What do you think?" Lu Yurong said. Chu Li pondered for a moment before he shook his head. "It's not my fault. King Ping is disheartened and doesn't want to fight at the border anymore. He's tired of it. He's killed so many Li Dynasty's cavalrymen and protected the Ji Dynasty, but he couldn't protect Madame. He's become disheartened." "Don't tell me you're blaming the Emperor." Lu Yurong smiled faintly. "A little," Chu Li replied. "The Emperor could protect all the Wangye, but he didn't care about the Wang Fei's life or death. Furthermore, it was the Wang Fei that was not by his side, guarding the border. She needed someone to protect her, but the Emperor couldn't protect her. How could King Ping not feel resentful? If he didn't express his resentment, he would have buried it in his heart. Instead, it would have been stronger and left behind hidden dangers. If he expressed it, the Emperor would feel relieved." Lu Yurong said, "So His Majesty threw the Secret Guardians Hall's deputy commander into the Imperial Mausoleum, and threw you, a centurion, in as well?" Chu Li glanced at her without saying a word. Lu Yurong chuckled. "Or is it because you blindly interfered and still have a conscience that you ended up like this? Why bother asking if you already know?" Chu Li scoffed. "Let's see if you're lying." Lu Yurong smiled and said, "At least you didn't lie to me. But it's really tragic for you to end up like this. You've been crippled of your martial arts and sent to the Imperial Mausoleum. There's no hope for you to return to the fairies' capital. Your life is over." Chu Li nodded. "Yes, my life is over. But I see that you are quite calm." Lu Yurong looked him up and down. She initially thought that Chu Li would be in a daze. Confidence did not come out of thin air, it was because of his strength. Chu Li was in high spirits because of his martial arts. If he lost his martial arts, he would naturally lose his confidence. Unexpectedly, Chu Li was still in high spirits and did not look down at all. She could not help but admire him for being able to remain calm and unmoved in the face of adversity. This was true courage. She had always admired Chu Li's great courage, which was far beyond what she could achieve. Chu Li said, even if I lose my martial arts, I can still live a free and unfettered life with my intelligence. Lu Yurong giggled, Xiao Yao Zi Zai, you wish. Chu Li shook his head and said nothing. Xiao Qi faintly asked, Lu Yurong, what do you know? Oh, third Miss Xiao, are you worried? Lu Yurong looked at her with a smile. I won't say it. Xiao Qi frowned. Will there be trouble at the Imperial Mausoleum? Lu Yurong smiled faintly. Chu Li asked, King Jing, are you relieved now? Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. King Ping might be taking a step back in order to advance. Chu Li secretly sighed. Lu Yurong was indeed smart. He said, no matter what, he took a step back. King Jing can take this opportunity to infiltrate the military. Miss Lu, you'll be very busy too. Do you still have the time to come and watch me? There's no hurry. Lu Yurong's fair and delicate lips curled up. She was excited when she saw King Jing's hope of ascending to the throne. Since her biggest opponent was in trouble, of course, she had to come and show off. Xiao Qi said, there's still 10 years. 10 years may seem fast, but it can also be very slow. Who knows what will happen in the future? She said, Chu Li has practiced martial arts for less than 2 years. It'll be faster if he cultivates again. Besides, it's not that difficult for me to ask for a life recovery pill from Green Deer Cliff. No matter how indifferent she was and how competitive she was, she could not bear to see Lu Yurong being so smug. Especially when Chu Li was down, it was like pouring salt on his wound, making him feel even more pain. Lu Yurong's expression changed slightly. She thought of Xiao Yueling, and could not help but scoff. Crippling his martial arts is for the Emperor to see. How can he recover so quickly? Is he messing with the Emperor? Chu Li smiled. Miss Lu, although I can't help King Jing succeed, it's still easy for me to ruin his plans. Lu Yurong squinted her eyes. Chu Li and her stared at each other. Their eyes were reflecting the fire. Chu Li suddenly looked to his left and raised his voice. Fa Yuan, since you're here, come out and meet me. Amit Ba Buddha. A Buddhist chant was heard. It was peaceful and quiet. It slowly traveled to the three people's ears. Fa Yuan's gray robe fluttered. He came to the bonfire and bowed with pressed palms. Brother Chu, ladies. Chu Li smiled. Fa Yuan, are you here to laugh at me? Fa Yuan smiled. The world is unpredictable. I didn't expect this day to come, Brother Chu. The world is unpredictable. I didn't expect to see you, Fa Yuan, under such circumstances. Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong scoffed. Monk, why are you here? Fa Yuan smiled. If almsgiver Lu can come, why can't I? They're just some small fry. They can't even withstand a single blow. Chu Li smiled. There's no need for you to come. If Brother Chu is hurt by these small fry, it'll be a great shame. Fa Yuan shook his head. Lu Yurong scoffed. Monk, you and Chu Li are known as the twin prides. Are you afraid of weakening your reputation? Fa Yuan smiled without saying a word. Xiao Qi asked, Master Fa Yuan, do you know the truth about the Imperial Mausoleum? The inner mausoleum, the outer mausoleum, and adjacent town. Fa Yuan nodded. Brother Chu's martial arts will be crippled. He'll enter the small town next to the Imperial Mausoleum and serve there. Lu Yurong scoffed. I'm here on King Jing's orders to inform the mayor to take care of Chu Li. I'll give you a job. Are you satisfied? Thank you, King Jing. Chu Li fist saluted. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes. Fa Yuan said, the people serving in the town are sent to guard the Imperial Mausoleum. Some of the residents are from the outer mausoleum, and some are family members from the inner mausoleum. The small town is very safe. Don't worry. Xiao Qi sighed in relief. Chu Li said, let's hurry up tomorrow and reach adjacent town as soon as possible. He chatted with Fa Yuan and asked about the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture. He wanted to know if there was a way to restrain it. Fa Yuan shook his head. The reincarnation temple's inheritance was completely different from the titanium temple and the tempest temple. Moreover, the earth matrix and reincarnation scripture had always been mysterious. He really did not know how to restrain it. For the next 2 days the journey was very quiet. It was as if the assassins did not dare to come after seeing that there were so many of them and tactfully left. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, they arrived at a small town that was about the same size as Qingyun town. It was bustling with people. The 4 of them went straight to the town defense prefecture. The town defense prefecture was located in the center of the town. It looked shabby and dilapidated. It was not even close to being luxurious. Moreover, the security was lax. There were only 2 protectors guarding the gate. Other than that, there were no other protectors in the prefecture. Changui was short and plump. He sat in an armchair in the main hall of the town defense prefecture. He was smiling and did not look dignified at all. Instead, he looked like a spring breeze. He was a grandmaster with a profound cultivation level. Changui looked Chuli up and down. "Head Chief Chuli, I've heard of your name here." Chuli fist saluted. Chapter 3792. The 4 of them looked at Changui. Changui was still smiling at Chuli. "Sweeping a street shouldn't be a difficult task, right?" Chuli closed fist saluted. "Yes." Changui stared at him, as if he was trying to read his every expression. In the end, he shook his head in disappointment. "All right then, since you've just arrived, take a rest first. Don't be sick and stay in bed. Start tomorrow. Come over tomorrow after breakfast and someone will bring you along." "Yes." Chuli revealed a smile and slowly asked, "I wonder which of the mayor's relatives you cherish the most." The question was abrupt and strange. Changui frowned at him. Chuli shook his head. "Should I find my own place to stay?" "You can stay wherever you want as long as you don't delay the task." Changui waved his hand impatiently. Chuli closed fist saluted. "Goodbye." The 4 of them left the town defense prefecture with a sour expression. It was obvious that the job of sweeping a street was a show of strength. He, a dignified rank 1 imperial guard, sweeping the streets was simply an insult to him. This city guard seemed to be smiling, but his eyes were filled with hostility. Lu Yurong suddenly burst into laughter. "Sweeping a street is a good job. I'll go on a tour tomorrow and learn from everyone in Fairy's capital. I'll help you make a name for yourself." Xiao Qi looked at her in dissatisfaction. Lu Yurong smiled. "Chuli, why don't you reject the job?" "If I do, there's a better job waiting for me," Chuli said, "transporting feces." "This is even more vicious," Lu Yurong exclaimed. Fa Yuan asked, "Brother Chu, are you going to accept it just like that?" Chuli had been deep in thought. He smiled. "He's a local tyrant, of course I won't sweep the street." "What should we do?" Fa Yuan asked. "He's a powerful man. I can only obey him and not disobey him." The town defense prefecture was the highest official in the city and reported directly to the imperial court. Chuli was now assigned to the imperial mausoleum. If he did not listen to the town defense prefecture and submitted a report, the emperor would be furious and punish him even more severely. Not only would he not be able to return, but he would also be in a worse situation. His martial arts had been crippled, and he was just waiting for the emperor to let him return to Fairy's capital so that he could quickly recover his martial arts. All he was waiting for was a word from the emperor. Chuli smiled. "Everyone has their weaknesses." Fa Yuan looked at him in confusion. Xiao Qi said, "I'll buy a residence first and settle down." Chuli shook his head. "There's no rush. We'll stay in an inn first." They quickly found an inn in the city, and asked for a small courtyard. Fa Yuan and Lu Yurong had no intention of leaving. Chuli ordered a banquet and sat in the gazebo in the courtyard. Lu Yurong ate a few mouthfuls of food and took 2 sips of wine. She smiled and said, Fine, I'll help you plead for him. Give him His Highness King Jing's letter. Chu Li shook his head. Forget it. Lu Yurong gave him a sidelong glance. Why? You don't want to owe His Highness King Jing a favor? Chu Li said, I'm just afraid that His Highness King Jing isn't as influential as you think. Lu Yurong smiled and shook her head. You think too highly of him. Chu Li shook his head and smiled without saying a word. Chang Gui sat in the hall and rubbed his bulging belly with satisfaction. The feeling of stepping on a proud son of heaven under his feet was too enchanting, making him excited and satisfied. He stroked his beard and sighed again, a little unsatisfied. Unfortunately, Chu Li was too tactful and did not give him a chance to explode. He originally thought that Chu Li, who was proud and arrogant, would not be able to keep his cool when he heard about this lowly task. After all, he was young and full of vigor. He would definitely be unconvinced and question him. Then, he would smile and ask him if he wanted to do this task. Chu Li would definitely say no, then he would announce his other task, which was to help transport feces. At this time, he would not be able to refuse. If he did, then he would have to write a book to make this proud son of heaven fall into the dust and never be able to make a comeback. Thinking of this, he was inexplicably excited. He licked his lips as if he was facing a feast. Then, he shook his head and sighed. It was a pity that Chu Li was so tactful and flexible. He actually agreed to it. This guy was so slippery that he dodged a bullet. Suddenly, he felt something and looked up. Lu Yurong, whose face was covered by a white veil and was dressed in a white robe, was standing in the hall. His heart skipped a beat. This woman's cultivation level was very high. However, no matter how high her cultivation level was, she would not dare to do anything to him. His Royal Highness King Jing has a letter for Mayor Chang. She took out the letter from her sleeves and gently let go. The waterproof envelope floated, as if it was carried by an invisible hand, and arrived in front of Chang Gui at a moderate speed. Chang Gui received it calmly. After tearing it open, he glanced at the white paper and gently placed it on the table beside him. Mayor Chang, what do you think? Lu Yurong asked. Chang Gui grinned and said, This Chu Li's reputation is quite extraordinary. He hasn't even arrived, but the letters from the Royal Highnesses have already arrived. To be honest, not only have I received a letter from His Royal Highness King Jing, but I've also received letters from Prince Bao, Prince Kong, and Prince Ping. They've asked me to take care of Chu Li. Lu Yurong frowned and suddenly understood. Whatever His Royal Highness King Jing thought of, it was impossible for the Royal Highnesses to not have thought of it. He was one step ahead of her. I can't afford to offend the Royal Highnesses. Chang Gui shook his head and sighed. But rules are rules. Without rules, nothing can be done. I'm under the orders of the Imperial Court and His Majesty to guard this city. I have to enforce the law and do things according to the rules. I can't be biased. Changing to a leisurely job isn't to the point of being biased, is it? Lu Yurong frowned and stared at him. Her bright eyes were cold and she was secretly annoyed. She did not think that Chang Gui was a pure and honest official. He was just seizing the opportunity to show off his strength in order to gain the emperor's favor. He was an opportunistic person who wanted to use Chu Li as a stepping stone to climb up. Chang Gui said in a low voice, Chu Li wants to change his job, others want to change their job too. Everyone is dissatisfied with their job. How can I be convinced by this? Among those who were sent to the Imperial Mausoleum, some had a chance to turn things around, especially those Imperial Court officials who did not know martial arts. After arriving at adjacent town, they might be able to return to the Imperial Court, but some had no chance to turn things around. Chu Li was personally sent to the Imperial Mausoleum by the Emperor. He had deceived the Emperor and lost his reputation. Once he spoke, the Emperor would not go back on his word. How could he change it? Therefore, Chu Li had no chance to turn things around. A person like him, who could not turn things around and was famous, was the best stepping stone for Chang Gui. If Chang Gui taught him a lesson, he would be able to earn the reputation of an honest official and leave adjacent town. There was a chance that he could gain the emperor's favor and return to Fairy's capital. Although the royal highnesses would blame him for not giving them face, as long as he had the reputation of an honest official and did what he wanted, they would eventually be convinced. Moreover, it did not matter even if they held a grudge against him. As long as he could return to Fairy's capital and leave this remote place. Mayor Chang, you have a good plan. I'm just afraid that your plan won't work, Lu Yurong said coldly. Chu Li is not someone you can bully as you please. Chapter 3793. Very well, let's wait and see. Lu Yurong turned to leave. I will personally report to the Royal Highnesses about Mayor Chang's straightforwardness. Thank you. Chang Gui cupped his fist and smiled. I can't wait for that. Lu Yurong sneered and turned to leave. Chang Gui stroked his beard and smiled. He was very satisfied with his response. King Jing was the next emperor, but as long as he was the emperor, he would have a different mindset. Not only would he not be angry at his rejection, but he would also value him. He could even reject King Jing, let alone others. How could he not trust such a loyal subject? Chang Gui's smile widened as he thought about it. As for Chu Li, he sneered. No matter how capable he was still a cripple after his martial arts were crippled. Now that he was in his own territory, he had no choice but to be obedient. This was a rare opportunity. The one he had been waiting for was finally here. He could not help but laugh. He happily dealt with the documents for a while before he got up and left the main hall. He went to the backyard garden and asked the maid lazily, "Where's young master?" "He went out to play with madam." He should be back by now, right?" "Yes." The maid nodded softly. Chang Gui frowned as he looked at the sky. The sunset had dyed the garden a rosy color. His grandson and daughter-in-law should be home by now. His son died a violent death while adventuring in the martial arts world. The Chang family only had his grandson as their only child. This only child was his lifeblood. His daughter-in-law was quite obedient and tried her best to take care of his grandson. She would come home early every day when he went out to play. Just then, hurried footsteps were heard. A beautiful young woman rushed in. She was dressed in a brocade gown and her footsteps were strong. She obviously knew martial arts. Her face was pale and she looked anxious. Her eyes were misty and looked like they were about to drip. "Xiaoyun, what happened?" Chang Gui frowned and stood up. "Father!" Xiaoyun shouted. "An heir was kidnapped." "Kidnapped?" Chang Gui's expression changed. "How many people? How did it get snatched?" "Chang heir, Chang San, and an heir were on our way back when we were ambushed and knocked unconscious in an alley. When we woke up, an heir was already gone." Xiaoyun gritted her teeth and said hatefully, "We didn't even see who did it. Their martial arts were too strong." "A grandmaster?" "It must be the grandmaster." Xiaoyun quickly said, "Father, quickly send someone to look for him. I'm worried that if we delay for too long, an heir." Chang Gui was so angry that his whole body was trembling. An heir was his lifeblood. Who would be so bold as to provoke him? How lawless! Even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground, he would find these thieves and take back his grandson. "Guards!" Chang Gui yelled. "Master!" An old servant stepped forward and cupped his fists. The old servant was more than 10 years older than Chang Gui. Although his eyebrows and beard were all white, he was full of vigor. His eyes were like cold lightning, and his killing intent was dense. "Changda, pass down my order. Close the city gates and search every house." Chang Gui grunted. "Yes." The old servant Changda cupped his fists and replied, "But master, I'm afraid they're already outside the city." Xiaoyun quickly said, "They might have run out of the city." Search the city first. Chang Gui scoffed with a gloomy face. Yes. Chang De responded and glided out. Xiao Yun sat by the stone table and started sobbing. Chang Gui's face was gloomy. He did not move as he thought about who would kidnap his grandson. After a while, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought about Chu Li. Back then, Chu Li had asked who was the person he cared about the most among his relatives. Then, he changed the topic and only mentioned that one sentence. Thinking about it now, there was a deep meaning behind it. He had already harbored evil intentions back then and wanted to do this. When he thought about this, he said, Chang Er. Yes, master. A middle-aged man glided over and gave a fist salute. Get Chu Li here. Yes. Chu Li soon appeared in the main hall of the town defense prefecture. He was dressed in green, upright, and full of heroic spirit. After he entered, Chang Gui sat in the armchair in the middle of the hall. He stared at him with sharp eyes and did not say a word. The main hall was shrouded in silence. The atmosphere was getting more and more oppressive. Seeing that he did not speak, Chu Li casually sat in the armchair and broke the silence. Is there anything I can help you with, Sir Mayor? You did it right, Chu Li. Chang Gui retracted his sharp gaze and opened his fan with a swoosh. He asked with a smile. It was already late autumn. It was not a suitable season for him to fan. Chu Li said, What do you mean, Sir Mayor? I really don't understand. You kidnapped my grandson, didn't you? Chang Gui laughed. You're indeed the famous Chu Li. You're so daring to do such a thing as soon as you enter the city. You're not brave enough to cross the river. He smiled as if he was joking. He did not show any anxiety and did not seem to care about his grandson. Chu Li said, I don't understand what Sir Mayor is saying anymore. Sir Mayor's grandson was kidnapped? No wonder the city is in a mess. Chu Li, you don't have to play dumb. Chang Gui shook his head. You just want to change an errand. Sure, I'll change it for you. What errand does Sir Mayor want from me? How about an idle errand in the town defense prefecture? Chang Gui said. You don't have to come over. Thank you, Sir Mayor. Chu Li fist saluted. Chang Gui smiled and said, Can you hand over my grandson now? I really didn't kidnap Sir Mayor's grandson. Chu Li shook his head. How can I do such an illegal thing? Chang Gui frowned. He still had a smile on his face, but his gaze was cold. Chu Li sighed. Sir Mayor might have made a mistake. My grandson is still in the residence, but he thought he was kidnapped. Chang Gui frowned. He raised his voice. Guards. Chang Er glided in. Go and look for young master's room. Chang Gui ordered. Yes. Chang Er glided out. Soon, Chang Er rushed in like a gust of wind. Master, young master is sleeping on the bed. He's awake. There's no problem. Good. Chang Gui waved his hand and let out a sigh of relief. Chu Li smiled. Seems like Sir Mayor has made a mistake. I wonder if this errand is still mine? Chang Gui's smile faded. His round face was covered with a layer of frost as he stared coldly at Chu Li. He wanted to punch Chu Li to death. Touching his grandson was equivalent to touching his reverse scale. How could he live if something happened to his grandson? He would not even have someone to send him off. How could he face his ancestors after he died? This Chu Li deserved to die. He could not be forgiven. Chu Li grinned at him. Chang Gui said coldly, You can go back and wait. Chu Li laughed. Sir Mayor, you've changed too quickly. Chang Gui said coldly, I'll kill you with one slap. At most, I'll retire and return to my hometown. Chu Li shook his head and fist saluted. If that's the case, I'll take my leave. Scram. Chang Gui slammed the armrest of his chair. You're not allowed to take another step into the town defense prefecture. Chu Li shook his head calmly and turned to leave. Bang. Chang Gui slammed his palm on the table, and it broke into pieces. He glared at Chu Li's back and gritted his teeth. He had a strong urge to kill Chu Li and get rid of this scourge. His rationality stopped him. Chu Li was a person from the High Duke's public house. It would be fine if he used his authority to bully him and no one would say anything. Instead, they would praise him for his courage. However, if he killed Chu Li, there would be endless trouble. The High Duke's public house would not let him go. Changde! He shouted. All protectors in the residence are to protect an heir. An heir is not allowed to go out for the next few days. Yes. Old servant Changde answered. Chang Gui gritted his teeth and his eyes were spitting fire. How dare he play this game with him? He wanted to see who would win. This was his territory. He took a deep breath and said, "Send the secret guards to deal with Chu Li, break his limbs." Chapter 3794. P.S. Update complete. Chu Li returned to the small courtyard of the inn as dusk arrived and the lanterns were lit. Shao Qi, Lu Yurong, and Fa Yuan were waiting. When they saw him return safely, they smiled at him. "Did you change your job?" Lu Yurong asked. Chu Li shook his head. "It's not that easy. This mayor won't give up until he hits a brick wall. Looks like I'll have to do it again." Lu Yurong smiled. "Remember, I owe him another favor." Chu Li said, "Forget it, I don't dare to use you." Lu Yurong glanced at him. "Are you going to let Third Lady do it alone? Third Lady and I work together quite well. Isn't that right, Third Lady?" Shao Qi ignored her provocation and asked calmly, "Chu Li, what do you want to do?" Chu Li smiled. "You don't have to worry about this. I'll take care of it." Lu Yurong looked at him curiously. He must be on high alert now. It's impossible to kidnap that little guy without him knowing. The protectors in the town defense prefecture are weak. I suggest we just barge in and teach him a lesson. Otherwise, he'll be too arrogant and use you as a ladder. Shao Qi nodded. She also thought that this was a good idea. Using force to break through trick. No matter how many tricks he had, it would be futile if he was not strong enough. As long as Chang Gui was aware of this, he would not provoke Chu Li and humiliate him. She hated Chang Gui and saw through his evil intentions. She wanted to teach him a lesson and let him know that some people could not be humiliated or used. Fa Yuan said, "I'll do it." Even if Chu Li's martial arts was crippled, he was still a master who was on par or even better than him. He could not bear to see Chu Li being humiliated. Chu Li smiled. "This time, you don't have to do anything. Using force won't help much." "What do you want?" Lu Yurong scoffed. "So secretive. Let me keep you in suspense. Just wait for the news tomorrow." Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and shook his head. The morning sun was still shining, but it was still dark. There was only a ray of light in the sky. Chang Gui's grandson, Chang'an, was a cute little boy who was sleeping soundly on the bed. His mother, Xiaoyun, held him in her arms. She was afraid of losing him, so she hugged him tightly, afraid that the child would be gone if she let go. There are 4 grandmasters guarding the door and it's a house. Did someone come in last night? Yes. Xiaoyun nodded vigorously. Chang Gui walked to the table and picked up the silver bracelet. Underneath the bracelet was a flower petal, dripping with dew. His expression grew darker. "Chu Li. Father, did Chu Li do it?" Xiaoyun asked. Chang Gui waved his hand. "Don't worry about it. Don't bring her out today." "Yes." Xiaoyun nodded vigorously. Even if he wanted her to bring her out to play, she wouldn't go. It was too dangerous outside. Who knew if she would be able to bring back safely the next time she made a move? Chang Gui came to the side of the bed and touched Chang'an's head. "Grandpa, wants to ride a horse." Chang'an stretched out his hands. Chang Gui chuckled and said, "After we finish eating, Grandpa will take to ride a horse, okay?" "Okay." Chang'an nodded obediently. Chang Gui patted his head happily and left the house. He sat in the main hall with a gloomy expression. He stroked his beard and furrowed his brows. Changde whispered, "Master, are we going to deal with Chu Li?" "Forget it," Chang Gui scoffed. "It's no wonder he's so famous. He does have some strange abilities. Go and inform him that he's been transferred to the town defense prefecture. There's no need for him to come." "Yes," Changde responded and asked softly, "Are we going to let him go?" "We'll deal with him after his companions leave." Chang Gui sneered. "I don't believe I can't deal with someone who doesn't know martial arts." "Yes." Changde laughed. "Master is wise. A man can advance and retreat at the same time. Stop flattering me. Hurry and inform him." Chang Gui scoffed. Changde Fist saluted and left. Chu Li Fist saluted as he watched Changde leave the courtyard. Lu Yurong looked at him in shock. However, Shao Qi knew that he had used a divine power. His limb of God could reach the little boy's house in an instant. He put down the silver bracelet and disappeared without a trace. It was shocking enough. Since he could put down the silver bracelet without a trace, it would be easy for him to put down other things. He could even kill someone. This would make Chang Gui understand that his grandson's life was in Chu Li's hands. Lu Yurong smiled. "It's a pity we didn't get to see the show." Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. At least he managed to save his face. Fa Yuan felt uncomfortable when he imagined Chu Li sweeping the street. Chu Li said, "He's just staying put for now. Once you leave, he'll play tricks again. Next time, we must teach him a lesson so he won't dare to do anything bad again. Then we'll leave today. Let him make his move." Lu Yurong smiled. She turned to look at Shao Qi. "What about Third Lady Shao?" Shao Qi replied, "I'll leave in a few days." "Oh, you're together already?" Lu Yurong smiled faintly. "Third Lady Shao, aren't you being too unreserved? No matter what, you're still the third lady of the High Duke's public house. You're as pure as ice and as clean as jade." Chu Li snapped, "Don't talk so much." Lu Yurong said, "Chu Li, this is a blessing in disguise. You took advantage of Third Lady Zhao's kindness and sympathy to make her stay." Chu Li scoffed. "Do you want to stay too? Do you dare to make me stay?" Lu Yurong chuckled and raised her eyebrows flirtatiously. Shao Qi frowned at her. Chu Li quickly waved his hand. "Have a safe trip. I won't send you off." Fa Yuan pressed his palms together. "Then we'll bid farewell. We'll visit you again in a few days. Go, go." Chu Li waved his hand. Chapter 3795. After the two left, only Chu Li and Shao Qi were left in the courtyard. Shao Qi glanced at him. Chu Li smiled. "Lady Shao, you should leave too. I can handle it alone." "What if someone attacks you? How are you going to deal with it? You can't just run away," Shao Qi said. Chu Li nodded. "That's true. Thank you, Lady Shao. I'll buy 2 residences tomorrow," Shao Qi said, "one for each of us." Chu Li looked at her helplessly. Shao Qi said, "We still have to keep our distance. We can't stay in the same house." Sigh. Chu Li shook his head. "Lady Shao, is your regal sword scripture strong enough?" It seemed like Shao Qi had seen through his intentions. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Time breeds affection. If the two of them stayed alone in this small town for a long time, it would be easy for them to keep their guard up. "Yes," Shao Qi said, "I'll be in isolated cultivation soon." Chu Li said, "That's good too. One house would be used as a retreat place, and the other house would be used for daily use," he thought to himself. Shao Qi went with him to the broker house in the town and found 2 connected residences. They were 2 old residences by the river in the east of the town. There was moss on the stone steps and grass grew between the blue stones in the courtyard. Chu Li and Shao Qi were satisfied. There was a clear river as soon as they stepped out of the door. They could wash clothes by the river and sail on the river. The willows by the river were graceful and swaying with the wind like fog or smoke. Behind the house was a shop, which they bought along with the shop. The shop used to sell grain, but it was now closed. The shop was located on the side of the central street and was facing the bustling street. Although this small city was not as prosperous as the Immortals' capital, it was not inferior to Qing Yun City. In fact, it was even better than Qing Yun City. After all, most of the people who were sent here were nobles. Their pockets were full of money and they spent lavishly. Therefore, they were able to attract skilled craftsmen from all over the world to come here. There were many people with special talents in this small city. Chu Li did not plan to open a shop. He was not short of money and did not want to be distracted by these mundane things. Money would always bring trouble. There was no one who could earn money without putting in effort. There would always be various things to deal with. He planned to study the white tiger power carefully. In the evening, as the sun was setting, the two of them left their newly bought residence to have dinner. As the third lady of the High Duke's public house, how could Xiao Qi cook? The two of them went to a small town's restaurant for dinner. The two of them sat at a table by the window, chatting as they ate. Will he just let it go? Xiao Qi took a sip of the wine. She had already taken off her white veil, revealing her pure and peerlessly beautiful appearance, which attracted the prying gazes of the surrounding people. Xiao Qi did not care at all. She just stared at Chu Li with a frown. If we force him to admit defeat, there will be hidden dangers. I'm just afraid that he will plot against us at the crucial moment. It's not the right time yet. Chu Li smiled. Let's slow down and deal with him slowly. If we don't crush him to death, he'll jump out sooner or later. It's good that you understand. Xiao Qi was finally relieved. She was afraid that Chu Li would not care about Chang Gui at all. Would it not mean that these despicable people would often spoil things, especially when Chu Li was at such a crucial moment? If Chang Gui were to risk offending him and participate in the book, the consequences would be unpredictable. Chu Li was suddenly stunned. He called out, "Commander Su!" The middle-aged man who was slowly walking up the stairs looked up and smiled when he saw Chu Li. It was Su Huanda. He was dressed in a grayish-brown robe and looked like he was in dire straits. Chu Li stood up and gave a fist salute. Su Huanda approached him and sighed. I didn't expect us to be brothers in hardship. You're here too. I'm here to accompany Commander Su. Chu Li smiled. Xiao Qi only nodded slightly without saying much. Su Huanda asked, Why were you banished here? Chu Li glanced around and smiled. I told King Ping who the mastermind was. Su Huanda's expression changed. He pondered for a moment and shook his head. Why bother? You're asking for trouble. It can't be helped. I can't change my temper, Chu Li said. Commander Su can be reinstated, right? It'll be difficult. Su Huanda shook his head. The position has been taken. He's favored by the Emperor, so the Emperor will trust him more and won't immediately remove his position as deputy commander. As for me, the Emperor doesn't mind if I stay a few more years. Sigh. Chu Li shook his head. Then how did you get injured, Commander Su? He could tell at a glance that Su Huanda was heavily injured, but he pretended to be fine on the outside. There was a trace of weak inner strength circulating in his internal organs. It was constantly eroding his internal organs, and his body was constantly deteriorating. At this rate, he would probably be bedridden in less than 2 days. Su Huanda smiled bitterly. He had always kept a sullen face in the secret guardian's hall, as if he was wearing an iron mask. He had no other expression and was always calm and collected, as if he was numb and indifferent. Now, he sighed. The secret guardian's hall has offended too many people. Now that I'm here, I'm being punished. How dare they? Chu Li's expression darkened. Su Huanda said, Forget it. They're either from the outer mausoleum or the inner mausoleum. They're unscrupulous. You can't do anything to them. Besides, your martial arts has been crippled. Chu Li nodded slowly. "Oh right, you have to be careful. You're from the Secret Guardians Hall too," Su Huanda said. "I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to move around in the town." "It's okay. I'm not going on an errand." Chu Li smiled. "The Royal Highnesses pleaded for me, and I got an errand. I don't have to go out and I can just cultivate in my own home. I'm afraid that disaster will fall from the sky while you're at home." Su Huanda shook his head and smiled. "I'm not that lucky. I don't dare to cripple my martial arts like you." He knew that he could not enter the Imperial Mausoleum if his martial arts were crippled. If he could live outside the town, it would be easier for the Emperor to summon him back. However, his identity determined that he could not take this path. If he did not have martial arts, the Emperor would not use him, and it would be impossible for him to summon him back to Fairy's capital. Moreover, he understood his situation. He knew that he would not have a good time in the Imperial Mausoleum. He would be ostracized and suppressed. He would have no one to rely on. Without his martial arts, he would be like a fish on the chopping block. It would be miserable. Chu Li nodded and smiled. "If I don't enter the outer mausoleum, there won't be so many grudges, right? The people from the outer mausoleum can come out." Su Huanda shook his head. "They'll definitely cause you trouble. I'm afraid you won't be able to hide. I still have Lady Xiao to protect me." Chu Li smiled. Su Huanda shook his head. "According to the rules of adjacent town, non-family members can only stay here for a maximum of 7 days." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. "Once Lady Xiao leaves after 7 days, who will protect you?" Su Huanda asked. "Only family members?" Chu Li frowned. Xiao Qi frowned too. Su Huanda said, "If Lady Xiao is your wife, she can stay. However, Lady Xiao isn't. She can only leave after 7 days. No one can violate this rule." "What other relationships can I stay in?" Xiao Qi asked. Su Huanda said, "Siblings can only be biological relatives. Those who are not related by blood can only be husband and wife." Chu Li could not help but laugh. "Looks like I'll have to live alone." Su Huanda said, "Now that your martial arts have been crippled, don't think that they'll let you go according to the rules of the martial arts world. They'll make things worse." Chapter 3796. Chu Li smiled. "Don't worry about it. I'll take it one day at a time. Maybe the Emperor will summon me back in 7 days." "Impossible," Su Huanda said. "I know the Emperor's temper. Even if he's wrong, he'll be wrong to the end. He won't give up halfway and won't allow his dignity to be damaged. He'll regret it even if he's wrong." "If that's the case, will he stay here forever?" Xiao Qi asked with a frown. Su Huanda said, "Even if someone pleads for him, with the Emperor's temper, he won't change his mind for a year and a half. Fortunately, it's only a year and a half." Chu Li smiled. "If he doesn't change his mind, I'll really have to stay here." His desire to become an enlightened master was getting more and more urgent. He was suppressed everywhere and could not move freely. He felt that he was ashamed of his rebirth. Su Huanda said, "Of course. Chu Li, I notice some dangerous signs in your thoughts. You're being disrespectful to the Emperor." "If I'm this respectful, it'll be difficult for me to become an enlightened master." Chu Li shook his head. "Chu Li, although you're a genius and even better than Fa Yuan from the Tempest Temple, it'll be extremely difficult for you to become an enlightened master. It's best to give up on this idea or you'll be asking for trouble." Su Huanda shook his head and stood up. "Let's go. We'll find a quiet place." Chu Li nodded. "Let's go to my new residence." "My place." Su Huanda shook his head. Chu Li agreed and followed Su Huanda down the restaurant. After a few turns, they entered a narrow alley and arrived at an ordinary house. The house here was very different from the one Chu Li bought. It was narrow and low. "Commander Su?" Chu Li looked around. Su Huanda shook his head. "I can pay, but it's not necessary." Moreover, it's not a good idea. It shouldn't be difficult to buy a better residence, right? A good residence is too eye-catching. Without enough power, you won't be able to protect it. Su Huanda shook his head. Even if you buy it, it'll be occupied. Is the security in the city so bad? Chu Li frowned. Su Huanda said, There's no problem on the surface, but don't forget that there are martial arts figures here. Although the mayor is a master, he can't control every corner of the city. The black and the white have always been this way. Then who has the final say underground? Chu Li asked. Su Huanda pushed open the door and entered. There was only a flower bed in the small courtyard inside. Beside the flower bed was a wooden table. It had been weathered by the wind and rain, mottled and worn out. The three of them sat at the wooden table. Su Huanda brewed some tea inside. The underground master was originally a Chiliarch. His surname was Su, and his given name was Guangyang. He was once a general of the southern border, and he often fought against the Zheng dynasty. Later on, he was punished and sent here. Chu Li frowned and pondered. Su Huanda continued, This Su Guangyang was also sent here after his martial arts were crippled, just like you. However, his martial arts were crippled by the imperial court and then thrown here. I didn't expect him to recover his martial arts so quickly and unite his 4 subordinates to become the boss in the city. No one dares to offend him. Does His Majesty know? I know. Interesting. Chu Li shook his head. He was brought down by the secret guardians hall back then. Su Huanda shook his head. He hates the secret guardians hall to the core. Xiao Qi frowned even more. Then Commander Su can't defeat him? Chu Li asked. Su Huanda shook his head. His cultivation level is extremely high. I'm no match for him. Moreover, his 4 subordinates are top-notch masters. Chu Li said, Looks like the days from now on won't be peaceful. The underworld exists everywhere. This place is much more dangerous than the fairies' capital. Su Huanda shook his head and smiled bitterly. Back then, I only did things on impulse. I was confident that I had the Emperor's protection, so I offended people. I didn't expect this day to come. He sighed again. Fate was unpredictable. He never thought that he would have such a day. He could not hide his disappointment. Initially, he thought that he would be valued by the Emperor if he stayed true to his heart. He did not expect the Emperor to abandon him in a flash. He was in such a difficult situation. No matter how strong his martial arts was, he could only fight alone. He was far from Su Guangyang's group. Chu Li smiled. Commander Su, you don't have to worry after today. With Lady Xiao around, dealing with those guys will be a piece of cake. Xiao Qi glared at him. Su Huanda smiled bitterly. No matter how powerful Lady Xiao is, she can only stay for 7 days. Besides, she might not be able to defeat Su Guangyang. I'll just try. Chu Li said, Lady Xiao, what do you think? Xiao Qi nodded. Chu Li and Su Huanda then talked about the situation in the town and Su Huanda's assignment. Su Huanda's assignment was to patrol the outer mausoleum, so he was quite free. However, the people from the outer mausoleum could not stay in the mausoleum. They had to enter the imperial mausoleum on a regular basis and return to live in the town when the time was up. Only the people from the inner mausoleum could live in the mausoleum. The protectors from the inner mausoleum can enter the town too, Su Huanda said. Those guys are all top-notch masters. It's best not to offend them. They stay here all their lives and are fearless. Many of them have mental problems and are like lunatics. Chu Li nodded slowly. Xiao Qi sat aside and listened without saying a word. When the sky turned dark, Chu Li and Xiao Qi left the Su residence. Before they left, Chu Li gave Su Huanda a spirit pill to help him recover from his injuries. The two strolled along the river. The weeping willow swayed gently with the night breeze. Strings of lanterns were hung on both sides of the river, illuminating the houses on both sides. The river swayed gently and sparkled. On the river, a small boat drifted with the waves like a leaf on the river. Some scholars sat in the boat and recited poems while the sound of bamboo fluttered from the boat. The deputy commander of the secret guardians hall has fallen to such a state. Xiao-Qi shook her head. Chu Li said, "It's his fault for being abandoned by the emperor." Xiao-Qi looked at him with her clear eyes. Chu Li smiled. "Lady Xiao, don't worry. I won't end up like this. If I leave, you won't be able to use your martial arts. If you're surrounded, how will you escape? Divine power is a big secret. It can't be leaked. It's nothing to be beaten up," Chu Li said. Xiao-Qi shook her head and bit her lower lip. Small boats drifted along the river. A melodious song could be heard. The two walked side by the river. They could hear the sound of their footsteps. Under the light of the lanterns, Xiao-Qi's face was faintly discernible. The two unknowingly walked back to the residence and suddenly stopped. The main door was shattered on the ground as if it was slashed by a knife. The two walked in and saw that the parterre in the front yard was in a mess. Broken flowers and leaves were everywhere. It was completely destroyed. The stone table next to the parterre was shattered and turned into a pile of stones. The stone stool was overturned and there were knife marks everywhere. It could no longer be used. Chu Li took a deep breath and scoffed. "Looks like we don't have to go to them. They came to us first." Xiao-Qi's bright eyes flashed coldly. She said calmly, "Their skills are indeed extraordinary." Through these knife and palm marks, she speculated that these people's cultivation level was indeed grandmasters. Moreover, their cultivation level was high. The two went back into the house. All the furniture was torn apart. Not a single one was intact. The bed was split into several pieces. The bedding was torn. Pieces of silk and cotton fluttered on the ground like snow. "Ruthless," Chu Li said coldly. Xiao-Qi said, "He deliberately provoked us, right?" Chapter 3797. P.S. Update complete. I'm really sorry, I'm not in the best condition. I need to adjust. The two of them went to the residence next door. It was also completely destroyed. Not a single part of it was intact. The entire residence was uninhabitable. Chu Li and Xiao-Qi had no choice but to find an inn to stay for the night. The next morning, they returned to the residence. As soon as they entered the door, they saw 3 middle-aged men sitting on the steps of the main hall. They were waiting impatiently with flowers in their hands. In front of each of them was a pile of broken petals. The man sitting in the middle had thick eyebrows and big eyes. When his eyes opened and closed, they emitted a cold glint that was fierce and terrifying. Just by looking at the dense baleful aura around him, one could tell that he had been on the battlefield and had killed many people. The middle-aged men on both sides had mediocre appearances that were easily forgotten. They were tall and sturdy, and they were both grandmasters. They had already stood up and were staring at Xiao-Qi. Xiao-Qi was dressed in a white tunic with a white veil covering her face. However, her temperament was like that of a fairy. Her cold eyes looked at them calmly as if she was an otherworldly fairy. They could not help but stare at her. "Who are you?" Chu Li asked. "You're Chu Li." The middle-aged man said, "I'm Jin Wu." Chu Li nodded. "I'm Chu Li. What can I do for you?" "Chu Li, the head chief of King An's imperial residence?" Jin Wu asked. Chu Li nodded. Jin Wu said coldly, "The centurion of the secret guardians hall?" Chu Li pointed at his surroundings. "Did you guys do this?" Jin Wu answered, "Yes." Chu Li turned to look at Xiao-Qi. Xiao-Qi moved the long sword at her waist and a sword light flashed. It was so fast that the sword could not be seen clearly. Jin Wu threw a punch, but the tip of the sword had already pierced through his dantian. His inner energy gushed out of his dantian like a flood, and the energy in his fist disappeared. The three of them held their stomachs and stared at Xiao-Qi. Xiao Qi had been accumulating her energy for this moment. She wanted to vent her frustrations from last night. She gently shook the long sword and returned it to its sheath. The white veil covered her face so her face could not be seen. Her eyes were still cold like a white jade statue standing beside Chu Li. Chu Li nodded. Now we can talk nicely. Tell me, why did you destroy our residence? Jin Wu glared at Chu Li viciously. He bit his lips so hard that it bled. Fine, fine. Chu Li said faintly. It seems like you don't want to talk about it, then don't. Get lost, or else I'll break your limbs and throw you out. You. Jin Wu glared at him. This is adjacent town, not Fairy's capital. So what if it's adjacent town? It's not your place to be tyrannical. Chu Li said coldly. If you have the guts, ask Huang Feiyun to come. The underground master of adjacent city was Huang Feiyun. This Jin Wu was one of the 4 great Vajras. Fine, fine. Jin Wu gritted his teeth. I want to see what will happen to you. Chu Li waved his hand. Get lost. Jin Wu and the other 2 middle-aged men staggered out. Chu Li scoffed, turned his head and smiled. My lady, you did a great job. Xiao Qi replied. I might not be able to defeat Huang Feiyun. Chu Li laughed. My lady, if you can't defeat Huang Feiyun, then you'll have wasted your time cultivating the regal sword scripture. Xiao Qi shook her head. You can't underestimate the heroes of the world. He must have his own uniqueness to be able to dominate adjacent town. Then let's go and take a look. Chu Li muttered. Xiao Qi nodded. She placed her hand on Chu Li's shoulder and glided along with him. Their speed was not fast, so they followed Jin Wu and the other 2 from afar. Without their martial arts, they had lost their keen senses. In their days, they did not notice Chu Li and Xiao Qi. Chu Li and Xiao Qi chatted as they stared at them. How far do you want to go? Xiao Qi asked. To replace them. Chu Li replied. It'll be very difficult. Xiao Qi said softly. Your identity is inherently disadvantageous. The Secret Guardians Hall is unpopular and everyone has the right to kill you. Besides, you're from the High Duke's public house, so the people might not be convinced. If they're not convinced, then we'll beat them into submission. Chu Li scoffed. Otherwise, we won't be able to live peacefully and cultivate our martial art. That's true. Xiao Qi nodded. If they could not gain a foothold when they first arrived, there would be endless troubles. Chu Li's identity attracted too much hatred, so if they wanted to live peacefully, they had to subdue the people around them. Jin Wu and the other 2 stumbled into a restaurant and went up to the 3rd floor, where a young man stood. The young man wore a sapphire blue robe and was sitting at a table by the window in the restaurant where Chu Li and Xiao Qi had their meal last night. He held a glass of wine and sipped it as he pondered with a serious expression. He was the only one on the spacious floor. It was empty, but the 1st and 2nd floors were bustling. Boss Huang. Jin Wu and the 2 middle-aged men went forward and fist saluted with a gloomy expression. Help us. Huang Feiyun turned his head and glanced at the 3 of them. What now? Our martial arts have been crippled by Chu Li. Jin Wu gritted his teeth. We can only ask Boss Huang to help us. 3rd Lady Xiao. Huang Feiyun asked. Chu Li's martial arts had been crippled, so he could not fight. Xiao Qi was the only one who could do it. Yes. Jin Wu scoffed. 3rd Lady Xiao's martial arts are more powerful than the rumors say. She defeated us in one move. That's how 3rd Lady Xiao should be. Huang Feiyun nodded and smiled. I've admired such a powerful beauty for a long time. Now that she's finally here in adjacent town, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Boss Huang. Jin Wu yelled in dissatisfaction. Then, he remembered that he was no longer the valiant general he used to be. He had lost his martial arts and was now a cripple. Jin Wu, what do you think would happen if she becomes my wife? Huang Feiyun smiled. I've been fighting on the battlefield for the past 30 years. Now that I've come to adjacent town, I'm not interested in those ordinary women. Now I've finally met such a wonderful person. Boss Huang, although you've been a chiliarch, Third Lady Xiao must have high standards. I'm afraid she won't like you. Jin Wu quickly said. It's okay if she doesn't like me. Huang Feiyun shook his head. Let's get married first. What's done can't be undone. She's the third lady of the High Duke's public house, Jin Wu said. If she offends the High Duke's public house, she won't even know how she'll die. We're already a family. Why would she go against me? Huang Feiyun chuckled. As long as she's connected to the High Duke's public house, wouldn't it be a piece of cake to leave this damned place? If it's that easy, Chu Li wouldn't have come here, Jin Wu quickly said. Huang Feiyun shook his head. Chu Li's different. He's offended the emperor and nobody can save him, not even the High Duke's public house. As long as I kill him, Third Lady Xiao will belong to me, haha. He laughed and clenched his fists. That's why Chu Li must die. But he's known to the emperor. Who knows if the emperor will put him in an important position? Jin Wu hesitated. He was filled with hatred. Of course, he could not wait for Chu Li and Shao Qi to die. Only Chu Li's death would not be enough. Shao Qi should die with him. You little brat. Huang Feiyun pointed at him. You're so narrow-minded. Don't worry, I'll find a way to get you some spirit pills to help you recover your martial arts. Really? Jin Wu was overjoyed. Huang Feiyun said, although it won't be easy, it's not impossible. If I can become the son-in-law of the High Duke's public house, I'll be more confident. Then hurry up and kill Chu Li, Jin Wu said. Chapter 3798. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly laughed out loud. I'm sure Third Lady Xiao has arrived? Jin Wu was stunned. His face darkened as he quickly turned to look, but there was no one around. Big Boss Huang? Don't scare me. He turned around and smiled. You idiot. How dare you swagger back after crippling your martial arts? With Third Lady Xiao's intelligence, how can she not know that she can find me by following him? She doesn't have the guts, does she? Huang Feiyun shook his head. Third Lady Xiao is a heroine, so she has the guts. Am I right, Third Lady Xiao? The surroundings were empty, no one could be seen. Huang Feiyun chuckled. Third Lady Xiao, since you're here, why don't you show yourself and let me have a look? Still, no one answered. Huang Feiyun laughed out loud. It's said that knowing someone by reputation is not as good as seeing them in person. I've always admired your beauty, so let me fulfill my wish today. I'll spare Chu Li's life. Still, no one answered. Jin Wu said, Big Boss Huang, Third Lady Xiao might dare to come and check if she's alone, but she has a cripple to take care of. What do you know? Huang Feiyun glared at him. Jin Wu shrunk his neck. Big Boss Huang's gaze was not right. Huang Feiyun smiled. Since Third Lady Xiao is reluctant to meet me, I'll have to take the initiative. Adjacent town is so small, so it'll be easy to meet her. Am I right, Third Lady Xiao? Chu Li's laughter suddenly rang out. There's really someone so daring. No wonder he was sent here. In a flash, Chu Li and Shao Qi appeared on the third floor and stood in front of the four people. Huang Feiyun's expression did not change. He was still smiling, but he was shocked. He did not sense them approaching. Their sudden appearance was worthy of their excellent light body technique. This was Chu Li's God's limbs, but it looked like Shao Qi's light body technique. Huang Feiyun stared at Shao Qi greedily without blinking. Shao Qi's face was covered with a white veil, revealing only her eyes. They were clear and cold like autumn water, which intoxicated him. He wanted to hold her in his arms and have her eyes forever. Xiao Qi's bright eyes were calm as she looked on indifferently. She had seen this kind of greedy and intense gaze many times. Compared to the others, Huang Feiyun was more direct, bolder, and more intense, but he could not disturb her. Chu Li could shake her state of mind, but the others could not. It was like a gentle breeze that brushed past her face. Chu Li said, Huang Feiyun, you really aren't suited to be a centurion. An incompetent general will exhaust an entire army. You'll only let your soldiers die in vain. Shut up, you trash. Huang Feiyun turned his head abruptly and glared at Chu Li fiercely. He roared like a ferocious wolf pouncing on its prey. Chu Li smiled nonchalantly. There are still 6 masters lying in ambush, right? You still want to pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger. Let's call them up at the same time so that we can deal with them at once. Huang Feiyun's face darkened and he said coldly, You do have some skills. I have underestimated you. I've overestimated you. Chu Li shook his head and said, You don't know how to hide your desires. You're driven by your instincts. You're nothing. What a joke, hee. Huang Feiyun licked his lips and his expression became even more ferocious and terrifying. His murderous aura swept toward Chu Li. Just a little trick and you fell into the trap obediently. How dare you talk big? Just a little trick? Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Why do you have to go through so much trouble? First, you threw stones to test our strength, but in the end, you lost your men. If all of you had laid an ambush in our residence and attacked us together, we would have been crippled no matter how strong we were. He was trying to sow discord and attack Huang Feiyun. It was indeed important to throw stones to test the waters. Otherwise, if they rashly attacked without knowing their strength, it was very likely that they would be wiped out. The merciful did not command soldiers. This was the way of using troop. No matter how much one loved one's soldiers, once they were on the battlefield, one would have to treat them like chess pieces. Huang Feiyun had asked Jin Wu and the others to test the waters. First, he wanted to find out Chu Li and Shao Qi's strength and infuriate them so that they would lose their minds. Secondly, he wanted to make Chu Li and Shao Qi think that their masters were the same as Jin Wu and the other 2. In reality, Jin Wu and the other 2's martial arts were the weakest. The other 6 were far better than Jin Wu. Huang Feiyun was arrogant, but he was also quite scheming. After all, he had been through the battlefield. Nonetheless, in the face of strength, all of these were like castles in the air. They could not withstand a single blow. Shao Qi's regal sword scripture was rare in the world, and she was superior to them. Huang Feiyun chuckled coldly. Don't be so stubborn. I'd like to see what you're capable of. Third Lady Shao, please excuse me. Come out. He shouted. 6 silhouettes floated down like cotton. 4 of them entered through the window, while 2 of them floated up from the staircase. They sealed off the path from top to bottom, and formed an encirclement. 4 old men and 2 middle-aged men stared coldly at Shao Qi. Chu Li said, I've gathered quite a number of masters. These are all masters from our military. Huang Feiyun said proudly, Third Lady Shao, please advise us. Go. He waved his hand, and the 6 of them pounced forward to attack Chu Li. Chu Li took a step to the side and cleverly avoided 4 swords, 1 fist force, and 1 palm energy. Huang Feiyun frowned. This step seemed like a coincidence and he easily dodged them, but it was ingenious. Huang Feiyun could not use this step, so it was obvious that Head Chief Chu had an excellent step technique. He must force him to reveal it. Shao Qi's sword flashed like lightning. Instead of saving Chu Li, she took a step to the side and pierced an old man's chest with ease. Huang Feiyun's expression changed slightly. His eyes flickered as he looked between Chu Li and Shao Qi before he finally pounced on Shao Qi. Chu Li was not a threat. Shao Qi's swordsmanship was far stronger than the rumors said. Her sword was swift and her body movement technique was swift. It was impossible to defend against her. Huang Feiyun unsheathed the long blade at his waist and swung it at Shao Qi. It was fast and ruthless. Chu Li gently swung his arm. TSS. A cold light flashed, and a whistling sound was heard. An old man turned his head and stared at Chu Li in disbelief. A flying blade pierced through his back and exited his chest, shooting toward another middle-aged master. While the middle-aged master was dodging, Shao-Chi slipped and avoided Huang Feiyun's blade force. She then appeared in front of the middle-aged master and pierced his dantian with her sword, crippling his martial arts. "Damn it!" Huang Feiyun roared. Not only did he fail to suppress Shao-Chi, but she had also injured 2 people, and the culprit was Chu Li, who had been crippled of his martial arts. He felt that he had been fooled and he was furious. Although he was arrogant, he was cautious. After Chu Li appeared, he carefully examined Chu Li and found that he did not have any aura of inner energy on him. There were no signs of a martial artist, and his eyes were dull. How could he suddenly shoot a flying blade? Chu Li smiled and said, "My martial arts recover very quickly too." "Damn it!" Huang Feiyun turned and pounced at Chu Li. His blade formed a light arc as it fell toward Chu Li. Chu Li took a step to the side and easily dodged it. The combination of the nature restoration manifestation and the omniscient mirror allowed him to predict the direction of the blade. Huang Feiyun gritted his teeth. He did not believe that Chu Li could dodge it. After all, Chu Li was crippled of his martial arts. However, Chu Li easily dodged it. His body was strong now. First, he had the divine light body and the heavenly demon body. Then, he had consumed several wind speed pills and giant spirit pills. Even without inner energy, his speed and strength were similar to that of a grandmaster. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.